Chapter 4709. With the 8 large spiders dead and the other smaller spiders fleeing, everyone thought that the crisis was over and all of them had smiles on their faces. With Zi Qin as their protector, they were naturally at ease. After all, the commotion behind them was huge. Even if there were other monsters hiding in the dark, they would not dare to show themselves. However, they did not expect that someone would appear so quickly. Some of them came with ill intentions. After they appeared, they looked at Zi Chen with a smile. Am I right? The short sword that had been put away was once again in Zi Chen's hand. His face was pale, and he had consumed a lot of energy. He looked at the newcomer with a rare expression of vigilance. Not a bad weapon. Unfortunately, you did not refine it properly after you got it. It should be the weapon you used when you were in the yen state, right? The newcomer walked forward with the same smile on his face, and his tone was casual. Who are you? Zi Qin asked cautiously. The other party smiled again and said, You've already guessed my identity, so why bother asking? So, you're also a protector. It seemed that only a protector could walk around freely and ignore the presence of spiders. Gutai snapped his fingers. Let's get to know each other. I am Gutai. Chung Ho and the others' expressions changed. They did not expect a protector to appear at this time. The rumors are true, the white-furred rat exclaimed. It is said that there have always been 2 protectors in the Gaduan kingdom. However, they have never appeared together. Over time, everyone thought that it was just a rumor. The previous protector's death was actually a joint scheme of the white-furred rat and the others. Even the white-furred rat, who had countless subordinates and a lot of information, was dumbfounded at this moment. The newcomer should not have chosen this time to appear to get to know Zi Qin and make friends. This should be considered a turn of events, right? The situation was developing in the worst direction. Unwilling to accept it, Old Gu came from another direction, wanting to find out what was going on. He happened to see this scene. Shan Oh and the others followed with smiles on their faces. This was indeed a turn of events. Because they had already accepted their failure and were feeling depressed, they did not expect another protector to appear. In that case, although the situation didn't change for the best, it is still much better than the best. The old man looked at Chung Ho and the others in the distance and said in a low voice, Everyone, it seems that we will have to say goodbye in this world. Zi Chen did not expect that the other party was actually a Dao protector. He was shocked and surprised. Why are you here? Gatai said, You already know the answer. Don't tell me you don't know how you became a guardian? Everyone's expression changed, and their last hope was gone. They didn't come with good intentions. This was because Zi Chen had become a protector because he had killed the white-robed young man and devoured the laws that belonged to him. Gatai continued, I've been stuck in the head realm for a very, very long time. I originally thought that I wouldn't be able to advance any further. I didn't expect your appearance to give me hope again. So, if I want to become a demon, I can only come to you. Zi Qin said in a deep voice, If you kill me and devour the origin of the laws, you will be able to advance to the fiend realm. Gatai shook his head. I'm not sure about this, but I can always try, right? The same applies to you. If you can kill me, you can also try to refine my laws and see if you can break through another realm. Of course, the premise is that you have the strength and ability to do so. Gatai took a step forward, and the power of laws flowed around his body. In terms of control of laws, you are much worse than me, so only I can refine you. You won't have the chance to kill me. Zi Chen's expression did not change, but his heart sank. He was only a latecomer, so his understanding and control of laws could not be compared to this guy in front of him. In this regard, he was already at a disadvantage. Now that he had consumed a lot of energy, he was obviously at a disadvantage. Therefore, before this battle started, Zi Chen was already at a disadvantage and had no chance of winning. Previously, Gatai had already pointed out Zi Chen's situation, so after learning that the other party had come with ill intentions, Chung Ho walked forward. As soon as he moved, the others moved as well. At this moment, Zi-Chen's life was closely related to theirs. If Zi-Chen died, it would be difficult for them to survive. "Don't come over. I can deal with it," Zi-Chen shouted. He knew that it was useless. If they came over, they would only be sending themselves to their deaths. However, if they did not come over, Zi-Chen would definitely die in the following battle. The others paused, but Frost Maiden did not stop at all and continued forward. In the distance, old Ge mocked, "You're quite infatuated, but you can only die when you encounter a Tao protector. Go. It's best if everyone goes to die first." At this moment, rustling sounds rang out again. The spiders that had disappeared earlier had reappeared. Moreover, they quickly reached the battlefield and filled it. Wang, Frost Maiden's body, flowed with cold light. Frost Chi swept forward, freezing a large number of spiders into ice sculptures. But soon new spiders stepped forward and stepped on the ice sculptures. Frost Chi surged again and sealed a large number of spiders in ice. Chung Ho was anxious. Frost Maiden was powerful, but these spiders were endless. Before she could reach Zi-Chen to deal with Gutai, she would probably not be able to hold on. "Sister Frost Maiden, I'm fine. Don't worry." Zi-Chen's voice rang out again. This time it was much more determined. Frost Maiden hesitated for a moment before finally stopping. Then she retreated step by step. Just as she retreated, the spiders did not attack. Instead, they surrounded her and did not move. The original battlefield was now divided into two large areas by the spiders. One was the confrontation between Zi-Chen and Gutai, while the other was where Chung Ho and the others were. This was intentional by the spiders. "Do you see it? Do you see it?" Old Ji's expression became excited. "We made the right bet. There's an even more powerful existence behind these spiders. At this moment, its will has already been revealed. It wants the two Tao protectors to fight to the death." The others nodded. Their expressions changed quickly. For them, this was a rare opportunity. After the spiders appeared, Zi-Chen released his perception, wanting to see if there was another big guy coming. But this time he did not sense anything. Then he saw the spiders separating the battlefield. Obviously, they did not want the upcoming battle to be disturbed by external forces. He looked at Gutai. "Now, you still want to continue fighting?" Gutai smiled and asked, "Why not?" Zi-Chen asked again, "Are you serious?" "What else?" Zi-Chen nodded seriously. He also understood Gutai's meaning. The existence secretly commanding the spiders did not appear immediately. It should be afraid of the battle strength of the two. Gutai wanted to continue fighting because he was sure of this. Once the two of them fought to the death, they could devour each other and then return to their original state in a very short time. If they were lucky enough to break through, they could kill that existence. "All right." Zi-Chen nodded. Just as he spoke, a light flew out from his palm. It was a short sword. It was also a sneak attack. It was rare for Zi-Chen to take the initiative to launch a sneak attack, which showed his fear of Gutai. "If it was before, I would be serious, but now you can only court death." Just as Gutai replied casually, a similar beam of light flew out. Clang! With a clang, Zi-Chen's short sword flew back. In front of Gutai, there was also a short sword floating in front of him. It looked exactly the same as Zi-Chen's. Looking at Zi-Chen's slightly surprised expression, Gutai smiled and said, "Why, are you surprised? Let me tell you, the reason why the weapon in your hand could be formed was my suggestion. Originally, I wanted to let that kid refine it for some time, and then I would borrow it to refine it again. I didn't expect that you would beat me to it. This is good, it saves me trouble." Swish! Gutai disappeared and appeared in front of Zi-Chen in the next moment. The speed of the sword light was actually slower than his, but it went straight for Zi-Chen's sea of consciousness. Zi-Chen let go, and the short sword followed to block it. Zi-Chen exchanged a punch with Gutai, who was close to him. A powerful force shook, and Zichen's body flew back. During this time, the two identical short swords were clashing, and sparks were bursting out from the collision. Zichen and Gutai were fighting within the trajectory of the two short swords. The two's attack was very simple. It was to meet force with force and exchange attacks with each other. Zichen punched Gutai's forehead, and when Gutai's head was thrown back, Gutai also punched Zichen's chest. They were fighting with their physical bodies, and it was a life for a life, to see who could last until the end. However, Zichen had consumed a lot of energy and was obviously at a disadvantage. Zichen was beaten back again, and he kept coughing up blood. The others were very anxious, but there was nothing they could do. Pooh! Zichen fell to the ground and coughed up blood, his face pale. Gutai stood in the distance and looked at him quietly. He did not take the opportunity to kill him. Why? You can't do it? I remember that you should have other methods, right? For example, you can say the word die to me. A powerful force flowed and surged in his body, accompanied by laws. Oh, so they are really hidden in your body. Your method is interesting. It was the power contained in Zichen's unique combat skill. Gutai used the laws to find it and then immediately destroyed it. This was Zichen's last resort and also his greatest reliance. It was actually seen through and neutralized. Gusong didn't lie to me. You are indeed cunning. Gutai said, stop pretending. Continue to stand up and fight. Zichen stood up, and then he was sent flying again. When he landed, he hit some spiders, and many of them were killed. The spiders retreated again, and did not take the opportunity to attack. Get up. Don't be a coward. Gutai suddenly approached and stepped on Zichen's head. With a roar of energy, Zichen's head sank into the ground. Do it! When Chen Ho and the others saw this, they could no longer hold back and began to attack the spiders. Don't worry about me. Go. Zichen, who felt that death was approaching, shouted loudly. With me here, none of them can leave. As for you, this is the end. I will first send you on your way, and then take back the power of laws that should have been mine. Gutai's eyes flashed with killing intent, and he was about to kill. The difference in power between the two was too great. Gutai, who was at his peak, could easily kill Zichen, who had consumed a lot of energy. At this moment, the sky suddenly shook and countless ripples surged. A palm print with the power of laws appeared out of thin air. Chapter 47:10. Zichen was obviously no match for Gutai, and victory was in sight. Old Man Ge and the others were very excited. Once Gutai won, Chen Ho and the others would naturally die. Even if they wanted to run, they had to be able to do so first. This was definitely a turn of events, and the heavens were still looking out for them. Just as they were looking forward to Zichen's death, there was a change in heaven and earth. The power of the rules was suddenly mobilized by an unknown force, forming a huge palm print that fell from the sky. In the depths of this space, there was an independent space, and Lady was standing in this space at the moment. He looked up at the sky. There was a gap there, and countless black lights emerged from the gap. The aura of these black lights was very unique, obviously different from any aura in the Saint Spirit domain. Standing in this space, Lady felt a sense of oppression. This feeling came partly from the gap, but mostly from the pagoda. The pagoda was 7 stories tall, and the body of the pagoda was pitch black, made of an unknown material. There were 2 words on the pagoda: prison suppression. After Lady found this prison suppression pagoda, his attention was on it. He circled the pagoda and slowly flew up, carefully looking at the floors of the pagoda from the outside. However, he could not see anything. Coming to the bottom of the pagoda and looking at the closed door, Lady fell into hesitation, as if he did not know whether to enter or not. When he first came to this strange world, Lady did not feel anything strange. He was curious about everything he saw and was very satisfied with his ability. However, as time passed, he gradually found that he was different from others. At this time, He came here just to find the truth. And the prison suppression pagoda in front of him might be the truth. At this time, Lady suddenly frowned, and his mood became a little irritable. Then he moved his gaze away from the prison suppression pagoda and looked into the distance. His gaze seemed to penetrate this independent space and see what was happening in the distance. He was silent, and his eyes did not blink, as if he saw something interesting and was very focused. After some time, Lady moved. He stretched his muscles and showed a dissatisfied look. This kind of behavior is more or less shameless. It's fine if I didn't see it, but since I saw it, I can't just ignore it. After all, to live in this world, I still have to have some face. As soon as he finished speaking, he waved his hand and lightly clapped. Several ripples surged out from his body and disappeared more than 100 feet away. No one knew what he had done, but in an extremely distant place, in the air above Zichen and Gutai, a massive palm imprint of Law's appeared out of nowhere. It appeared without warning, and as soon as it appeared, it sealed off the surroundings, forming an absolutely oppressive space. In this space, Zichen, who was lying on the ground, couldn't move at all, and Gutai, who was standing there, couldn't move either. There was a saying, even if the sky falls, there are tall people to hold it up. The current situation was like the sky was collapsing, and Gutai was the taller one. Faced with the sudden change, he could only raise his head and watch as the palm imprint descended from the sky. Boom! As the palm fell, the heavens and earth shook. A powerful shock wave surged, and the surrounding spiders were all sent flying backward. When they landed on the ground, they were annihilated by the surging precepts. Smoke and dust were flying in the air, and among them were many trees that had turned into powder. In an instant, within the range of the palm imprint, there were only 2 people left. Other than that, there was nothing else. When the smoke and dust dissipated, Gutai was still standing there, and Zichen was still lying on the ground. They didn't look any different from before. The difference was that Gutai was bleeding from the corner of his mouth, and there was also blood in between his eyebrows. His short sword fell far away, trembling slightly. No one knew if it was because of fear or because it was wailing. There was an instant of silence, and it seemed that even the spiders had stopped moving forward. No one knew where the palm imprint came from, and they didn't even know what effect it had. They were all shocked by the might of the palm imprint. Shang Ti seemed to have sensed something, and he turned his head to look in a certain direction, but he didn't see anything. Zichen, who was at a loss, stood up and faced the motionless Gutai and pushed his palm out. Pum! Gutai's body slid back by 3 feet, and his lifeless eyes gradually regained their luster. At that moment, he felt as if he had encountered a mighty heavenly might, and his soul was about to be scattered. But for some reason, the heavenly might didn't destroy him, but only injured him. Zichen also didn't know what was going on, but since his opponent was injured by a palm imprint from beyond the heavens, it was a good thing for him. Our injuries don't seem to be much different now, so let's continue the battle. Zichen wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and rushed towards Gutai. This palm imprint rekindled his confidence. The short sword danced and went straight for the space between his opponent's eyebrows. Clang! The 2 short swords clashed and sparks flew. Zichen and Gutai each gave each other a punch. The powerful force caused the 2 to fly back and fall to the ground. Then they got up again and continued the battle. The spacious area that was previously cleared was filled by the surrounding spiders again, and they stopped Chung Ho and the others from helping. Because in this situation, once Chung Ho and the others joined in, the situation would definitely change. On the other side, spiders appeared in front of Old Man Ge and the others, intending to stop them. But it didn't have much effect, as Old Man Ge and the others didn't intend to rush out now. Even when the spiders arrived, they wanted to retreat. Obviously, they were being watched by someone in the dark. Once the other party had the intention to kill them, they would die. The battle between Zichen and Gutai continued, but this time, because Gutai was also injured, there was no absolute suppression. Both sides were exchanging attacks. The battle was now evenly divided, and it depended on who could last until the end. Why do I feel that the previous palm imprint was meant to help Zichen? Shan couldn't help but mutter as he watched the battle. If it was meant to help Zichen, why didn't it just kill the protector? Not to mention that it couldn't be done with that kind of terrifying power. Even if there were a few Gutais, they would have died. Someone next to him said. Old Man Gu paused and said, could it be because of the restrictions of heaven and earth? To determine a winner between the protectors, they must be under the same conditions? Previously, Zichen consumed a lot of energy, but Gutai was at his peak. So when Zichen was about to die, the rules appeared to stop it? The others nodded, as this possibility was still very high. Everyone should maintain a sense of reverence towards the rules. Chung Ho and the others were anxious, but there was nothing they could do now. They could only watch as the two protectors determined a winner. The winner was life and death. In the continuous collision, the injuries of the two were worsening, but no one fell. Even if their bodies were staggering, they still stood up and continued to fight. Why haven't you fallen? Why haven't you fallen? Gutai punched Zichen's chin, causing Zichen to retreat continuously, and he himself was also staggering. Zichen smiled, and blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. When you die, I will naturally fall. He punched back, causing Gutai to spit out blood. Both of them looked miserable. Don't even think about it. I won't fall. I want you to die. I want you to die. In a spurt of energy, Gutai stepped forward and punched Zichen again and again. Zichen had long been exhausted. Facing such a series of attacks, he was powerless to fight back and kept retreating. After more than 10 punches, Zichen finally fell. Haha, the one who fell is still you. See, you're still the one who fell. Gutai couldn't help but laugh. He was very proud and crazy. Zichen fell to the ground, and it would be very difficult for him to stand up in his current state. So after failing to succeed, he nodded and said, Yes, I've fallen, but the one who died is still you. Gutai's smile stopped. He seemed to have thought of something, as fear appeared in his eyes, and he retreated again and again. It's useless. As long as I'm not at my peak, you can't sense the existence of my power. As his voice faded, Zichen uttered the word die. Countless forces seemed to explode inside Gutai's body. Accompanied by a powerful roar, he spat out a mouthful of blood, which was accompanied by fragments of his internal organs. The spiders on the periphery were originally very quiet, but after Gutai spat out blood, they seemed to be in a commotion. You! Gutai pointed his finger at Zichen, but he didn't know what to say. His eyes were full of hatred, but more than that, there was regret. He didn't know if he regretted appearing here. If he lived according to his original life, he would be drinking tea in the bamboo house at this moment. How leisurely and carefree would he be? Along with this, he also hated Gusong. He shouldn't have listened to that smelly fox's bewitchment. He didn't get the opportunity to come here, but instead faced the threat of death. Zichen slowly stood up. The spiders were still in a commotion, but they still didn't move forward. Zichen looked at Gutai in front of him and said, At this point, you'd better not persist. Otherwise, our results will be taken advantage of by others. Just as Zichen spoke, the power of the laws between heaven and earth began to surge, accompanied by countless vitality, which converged towards Zichen's body. The reason why he didn't use the laws to heal before was that when the two of them were fighting, the laws suppressed each other and couldn't be used to heal at all. It was the same for both sides. Now it was all good. The spiders finally moved and quickly moved towards the battlefield. Zichen's face turned cold. At this point, you still haven't given up. You're obviously trying to trick me. Since you've lost, you have to admit it. What's the point of holding on? Therefore, before Gutai died, he saw Zichen throw out another punch. This punch contained the laws. He was already powerless to resist, so he naturally couldn't stop Zichen from using the laws. Bang! Gutai flew out. A ray of light flew out from Gutai's body, and then it was pulled towards Zichen. Chapter 47:11. After Gutai fell to the ground, what flew out of his body was the source of the rule. It flew towards Zichen, and countless blood-colored roses seemed to be blooming on its blood-stained white clothes. The source of the rule entered Zichen's body, and more vitality came from all directions, healing Zichen's injuries. Zichen's injuries were visibly recovering. Those spiders came close and tried to attack Zichen. A light shield of the rule appeared, blocking all the spiders outside. Inside the light shield, Zichen sat cross-legged and began to refine the source of the rule. When Cheng Ho and the others saw this, they breathed a sigh of relief. After killing Gutai and obtaining a new source of the rule, Zichen may be able to become the newest demon in one fell swoop. When that time comes, who can fight against him? Damn it, it turned out like this. Old Man Ge cursed in a low voice. Originally, they were in an advantageous situation, but because of the sudden appearance of the palm print, the situation changed. Now that Gutai was dead, Zichen, who had refined the origin of the rules, would undoubtedly become more powerful. For them, Zichen is already invincible, so they need to retreat immediately. Otherwise, when Zichen recovers, they will inevitably suffer strong revenge. And looking at the current situation, the spiders have launched another attack. It should be that big guy coming out. They believe that Zichen will still be in a lot of trouble. Everyone retreated. The failure of the plan this time allowed Zichen to gain a huge advantage, but they can't care about it now. Old Man Ge said, Shan O carefully sensed the location of that existence. Shan O looked at Old Man Ge very puzzled. It's already very good that the other party didn't take the initiative to kill them. Are we going to take the initiative to attack again? We haven't found the opportunity to become a demon for a long time. Maybe it's because they are protected by some powerful existence. Old Man Ge explained, Don't you think that the existence controlling the spiders is very strong? Maybe the place where it is where the secret is. Now that Zichen has killed so many big spiders, he must have angered the other side. Maybe there will be a fight between the two sides, and we can take advantage of the time when the two sides are fighting to go to the other side's nest to take a look. Maybe there will be some gains. The others fell into deep thought. This was a gamble, and the stakes were even bigger. Old Man Ge continued, This is our only chance now. If we can't take advantage of the battle between the two sides to obtain the opportunity, then what's the point of us staying here? They had already seen how difficult it was to deal with the little spiders. If they really waited until those existences were free, then it would be troublesome. Old Man Ge looked at everyone. So, even if we have to gamble, we can only gamble one last time. Success or failure depends on this. If we succeed, we will create a miracle and become the strongest existence in the world. If you fail, the result will be the same. The few of them nodded solemnly. It was indeed as Old Man Ge had said. Under such circumstances, they could only gamble for the last time. The icy aura surged and froze a large number of spiders. Cheng Ho punched out. Wherever the fist light passed, a large area of vacuum appeared in front of him. Ning Hua and the others successively attacked those spiders. The four beasts were also following the rules. Some of them were resting, preparing for the rotation later. Before Zichen finished refining, everyone had to carefully deal with those spiders and strive for a long time to prepare for battle, because no one dared to guarantee how long Zichen's refining would last. If we continue forward, we will have passed through the 18 kingdoms and reached the territory of the Honorable King. It is said that he is the strongest existence in this world. The 18 kingdoms are ruled by him. As long as he gives the order, everyone will move. Let's go, Shuewu. The two of us will go there and see what kind of background that Honorable King has. Lei Tianshi flew through the sky with Shuewu. Wherever they passed, no one could see them. He flew past the 18 kingdoms and arrived at the place where the honorable king was. Passing through the tall castle, he saw the honorable king. It was a middle-aged man wearing a yellow robe. The robe had a real dragon embroidered on it, like an emperor of the mortal world. At this moment, the honorable king was pouring tea. There was a guest. Lei Tianshi looked at the guest opposite the honorable king. He was slightly startled and surprised, because that was the honorable of the Holy Thunder Clan, known as the strongest person in the world, Lei Jin-ku. Lei Tianshi had known Lei Jin-ku since the previous era. Back then, Lei Jin-ku was quite famous, but not as famous as Ziqin and the others. At that time, Lei Tianshi was not honorable king and was not ranked. In front of Lei Jin-ku and the others, he was considered a junior. Lei Tianshi did not expect that at this time, Lei Jin-ku was the strongest person. This is the best tea in this world. Sir, try it and see how different it is from your hometown. The honorable king smiled and handed the teacup to Lei Jin-ku. As for the method of picking tea, it was passed down by the old master. Unfortunately, I did not stay by his side for long and did not understand the essence. Lei Jin-ku took it and thanked him. Sir, you have seen all the mountains and rivers here. Have you thought of any good ideas? The honorable king asked. Lei Jin-ku took a sip of tea and put down the teacup. Not yet. Sir, you must help me. The honorable king said helplessly. Now that this world is in chaos, there might be a disaster in the future. I can only go to your hometown to lie low for a while. Lei Jin-ku laughed. Lie low for a while? Honorable king, you must be joking. In our world, with your status, you will definitely be at the peak. Plus, you have the power of 18 kingdoms. The original 3 races of God, demon, and spirit will become 4 races. The honorable king stretched out his hand. In all honesty, this time I only want to take refuge. If I can see the scenery of your hometown, it will be great. As for power, the honorable king sighed and looked as if he had seen through the world. I have long since stopped caring about such things. Sir, you don't need to worry about it. If we can reach your hometown, I will do my best to help you. I, Gushan, will always keep my word. Lei Jin-ku said, I believe that. That is why I have been trying to find a way. However, I am curious about the master you spoke of. He is so powerful. So why hasn't he returned for so many years? Where did he go? The honorable king shook his head. No one knows where he went. In any case, he disappeared one day later. The honorable king paused for a moment before saying, maybe those 4 livestock know. Before master disappeared, he was with them. Lei Jin-ku said regretfully, if I knew where your master went, maybe I would have more clues. Unfortunately, there is no way to communicate with them. Moreover, after we came here, we directly appeared in the kingdom and had no contact with the 4 livestock you spoke of. If we could talk to them, maybe we would have a way. The Honorable King Gushan said, then Sir can try to find a breakthrough from the humans. I heard that among the humans who came here, there's someone who has contact with those 4 livestock. Maybe Sir can communicate with them through him. Lei Jin-ku asked curiously, who is this human you are talking about? Is he from the spirit race or the demon race? If he is from the spirit race, maybe I can do something. But if he is from the demon race, then I am powerless. Spirit race, I think his name is Ziqin. Oh, Ziqin. Why, sir, do you know this Ziqin? I do know one, but I am not sure if we are talking about the same person. Lei Jin-ku's eyes flashed. What do you know about this Ziqin? I have never seen him before, so I have only heard some news. The Honorable King shook his head again. Lei Tianshi listened for a while. He was bored to the extreme. Both sides were just probing each other. It was too boring. Neither Lei Jin-ku nor the Honorable King noticed Lei Tianshi's arrival. Lei Tianshi prepared to leave. At this time, Lei Jin-ku's voice rang out again. I heard that 2 people left this place. This rumor should be false, right? No, it's true. The Honorable King Gashan said, there were indeed 2 people who were taken away by you humans, but I don't know who exactly took them away. You are the Honorable King here. How can there be something you don't know? Lei Zhenku was puzzled. The Honored King said, to be honest, I know everything except this. All these years, I've been guessing why the other party would take 2 people with them. You should know that there are no humans here. So how did these 2 people appear? Lei Zhenku's expression changed. Is it possible that they found them in a place you don't know and then took them away? Just like this time when the inverted world was opened. Didn't you not notice anything before? You know that inverted world. There are no humans in it. The Honorable King's expression suddenly changed. You mean that there are other unknown places here and there are humans there? Lei Zhenku said in a low voice, maybe there is a coordinate that leads to other places. Lei Tianshi looked into the distance, his gaze seemingly piercing through space to see where Zichen was. At this time, he also fell into deep thought. The last bit of the origin of law was refined by Zichen, and he opened his eyes. The injuries on his body had already recovered. The battle on Cheng Ho's side was still going on. Outside of Zichen's protection, the spiders did not withdraw and were still attacking fearlessly. Zichen stood up and stretched, feeling somewhat regretful. He thought that he could really break through and become a demon-like existence in one fell swoop. But now he knew that he was thinking too much. That person called Gutai also thought too much. It was impossible to break through. If it was so easy to become a demon, it was impossible for such an existence to not appear in the spiritual realm for so many years. It seemed that he still had to rely on the secret here to have a chance to reach the demon realm. After refining Gutai's origin of law, although he did not break through, Zichen also obtained great benefits. The most obvious change was that his perception range had become farther. He was also more proficient in controlling the law. Within the protection, Zichen waved his hand, and rays of light appeared and came to Zichen's side. It was Gutai's short sword. Now that it had become Zichen's weapon, it could be fused with his previous short sword and then condensed again. Putting away the short sword, Zichen looked up into the distance. In his perception, there was an even larger behemoth there. P.S. The epidemic has worsened. The city, county, and villages are all sealed. Chapter 47:12. Zichen gently waved his hand, and the barrier disappeared. At the same time, a strong wind appeared around him, blowing away all the spiders outside the barrier. When the other spiders tried to move forward again, it was as if they had encountered an invisible wall. No matter how hard they tried, they couldn't get within 30 meters of Zichen. As Zichen moved forward, the spiders were forcefully thrown away. However, they maintained a safe distance of 30 meters. Seeing this, the white-furred rat behind him cried out excitedly, indicating for Lord Zichen to come over and help. Although everyone was working together to fight against the spiders, they were already exhausted. Zichen didn't reply. He didn't even turn around. Instead, he walked forward. Wherever he passed, the spiders would forcefully retreat. Whoosh! Perhaps because he thought this was too slow, Zichen exerted force on his feet and soared into the sky, flying into the distance. His body drew an arc in the air. Just as he was about to land, a disk of laws appeared under his feet. He borrowed force from the disk, and the disk disappeared. He continued, flying into the distance. Lord, why are you leaving? The white-furred rat seemed very disappointed. Cheng Ho waved his hand and said he should be looking for the existence, controlling the spiders. As long as we get rid of it, we will be truly safe. Everyone hold on for a while longer. Because they weren't sure when Zichen would finish refining, everyone had already prepared for a long battle. Thus, they could still hold on for a while longer. In Zichen's field of vision, there was a small mountain. That was the spider's main body. All the small spiders came from it. Zi-chan descended and stood 30 meters away from the small mountain. There was a huge hole in its abdomen, and spiders were constantly emerging from it. It was like the entrance to another world. The number of spiders would never end. Zi-chen looked at the small mountain and didn't say anything. Those small spiders seemed to have sensed his presence and kept approaching him. However, when they were 30 meters away, their bodies were blocked. This caused more and more spiders to appear 30 meters away from Zi-chen. In the blink of an eye, they were already as tall as a person. This height was still increasing, and it seemed like they were going to drown Zi-chen. The mountain-like spider was still standing there, continuously releasing smaller spiders. Zi-chen moved. He waved his hand. Ripples surged out from his palm, and the little spiders that were 30 meters away from him all fell to the ground, dead. An intense gale containing wind blades flew towards the large spider in the distance, bringing with it a massive aura. This was Zi-chen's first attack. The large spider did not do anything else. It allowed the hurricane to approach, and the small spiders died almost instantly. The large spider did not react at all, allowing the hurricane to wreak havoc. During this time, one could even hear the sound of countless wind blades cutting through the spider's body. Because they were very close to each other, Zi-chen knew what had happened. His expression changed. His attack, which contained the power of rule force, actually failed to break through the defense. Perhaps it was because Zi-chen was attacking the Spider King, but the surrounding small spiders started attacking Zi-chen like crazy. However, after reaching a distance of 30 meters, they stopped again. Then, one by one, they began to bite and block their attacks. The rustling sound was accompanied by the ear-piercing sound of gnawing. Zi-chen's vision quickly turned dark again. The small spiders had blocked his vision again. His vision could not be seen, but his perception was still there. After the hurricane disappeared, the large spider did not leave. Instead, it continued to reproduce. Zi-chen stomped his foot. The ground shook, and all the spiders fell to the ground. Then, sharp spikes grew from the ground, piercing the small spiders' bodies. Not a single one was left alive. The area in front of him was cleared. Zi-chen threw a punch. A dazzling light lit up in front of Zi-chen's eyes. A resplendent fist light went straight for the large spider. During this time, the power of rule force continued to fall from the sky and entered the fist light, providing a part of its strength. This punch was mighty. Just the air wave that it brought out plowed a big hole in the ground. This was also the strongest punch that Zi-chen had shown since he arrived here. If Gutai came back to life, he would be seriously injured by this punch, because this punch gathered the power of Zi-chen and Gutai's rule force. The fist light fell on the large spider's body and then exploded, forming a wave of air. Countless spiders were blown away by the air wave. The surrounding trees also fell and broke under the air wave. The area within a radius of 30 meters became very clean. In front of Zi-chen, there was a bigger plow mark. It was drawn by the large spider's body. It was repelled by Zi-chen's punch for nearly 30 meters. But that was it. Other than that, it did not have any other obvious injuries. Moreover, after the air wave disappeared, the large spider continued to reproduce small spiders to attack. Zi-chen tapped his foot, and his figure disappeared out of thin air. The next moment, he appeared in front of the large spider. He threw a punch. With a loud bang, the fist hit the large spider's body. At the same time, Zi-chen felt a dangerous aura. It turned out that more than 10 cold lights flew out from the large spider's body. Like sword lights, they went straight to Zi-chen. This attack was somewhat similar to the previous one. In his perception, the power was stronger. Zi-chen's figure flashed again, dodging these lights, and then continued to throw punches. Just like that, he dodged again and again. Each punch had the power of rule force. Banging sounds continued to sound. It sounded like a lot of movement, but it did not really cause any effective damage to the large spider. On the large spider's body, there were constant attacks similar to sword lights. Facing these attacks, Zichen did not dare to take them head-on. Finally, after dozens of punches without any effect, Zichen noticed the relatively slender spider's leg. Once the other party's leg was broken, and it could not move, it might be easy to deal with. When Zichen approached, he threw another punch. This punch was at the peak of his strength. After hitting the spider's leg, the other party staggered a few steps. Then, Zichen saw a crack on the spider's leg. There's hope. Zichen's eyes lit up. He had found a way to deal with the large spider. At this moment, Zichen's expression changed slightly, and he immediately retreated. A large, white net fell from the sky. It covered an area of nearly 100 feet. It was very huge. Zichen's figure flashed again and again. When the large net fell, he hid outside. Then, a light flashed in front of Zichen, like a bolt of lightning. He rushed toward the place where the spider's leg was broken. The short sword was extremely fast. It was accompanied by rule force. Most importantly, it was extremely sharp. Poof! The short sword pierced through the spider's leg and forcefully severed it. The large spider lost its balance and staggered a few steps back. Then the second light appeared. It was the short sword that had not been refined yet. It was Gutai's rule weapon. At this moment, it was also mobilized by Zichen. This attack was aimed at the large spider's body. The short sword hit the spider's body and exploded with a sonorous sound. During this time, countless sparks flew in all directions. It did not penetrate the spider's body and only left a crack. Although there was no substantial effect, Zichen saw hope. Just as he planned to exhaust the spider bit by bit from a distance, he saw the large spider turn around and leave. The other small spiders quickly surrounded it like solid walls, blocking the direction of Zichen's pursuit. Boom! Zichen put up a defense around his body and forcefully rushed over. After knocking down several spider walls in succession, Zichen realized that the large spider had already left. The other small spiders also began to retreat. This time, the spider's movement came to an end. In the blink of an eye, there were no longer any living spiders. All that was left were incomplete corpses. Zichen walked forward and came to the place where the previous battle had taken place. He picked up a thick spider leg. As he tapped it with his fingers, it was as if he was hitting steel. There was a sonorous sound. Not only was it heavy, but it was also very sturdy. It could be used as a material for refining weapons. Even if he didn't refine it now, it could still be used as a weapon. Zichen decided to go back first. He didn't know how the situation was with Cheng Ho and the others. However, according to Zichen's perception and guessed in his heart, the spiders on Cheng Ho's side should have also retreated at this time. Zichen, who had taken a few steps forward, suddenly stopped. He clenched the spider leg in his hand a little tighter as if he was holding a weapon. He looked ahead where there was a big tree. There was a touch of vigilance in his eyes. At the previous moment, Zichen's eyes swept across the big tree. He didn't see anything, nor did he perceive anything. But then there was an abnormal situation. "Come out!" Zichen shouted in a deep voice with a vigilant look. It was reasonable to say that he had just killed Gutai not long ago and refined Gutai's origin of law. Previously, even the big spider with unfathomable physical strength was driven away. Although he consumed some energy, he could recover in the blink of an eye. Now that he was in his peak state, there shouldn't be anything that made him vigilant. Behind the big tree, a man walked out. Zichen had never seen the other party before, but after seeing the other party for the first time, he perceived two different auras from the other party. One was attraction, and the other was repulsion. These two perceptions shouldn't have appeared at the same time. Soon, Zichen understood the source of this feeling. His expression couldn't help but change. Guardian. Only a guardian could give Zichen this feeling. Only a guardian could explain it. However, weren't there only 2 guardians? Moreover, he had killed both of them. His origin of law came from these 2 people. What was going on with the one in front of him? The other party looked at Zichen and didn't speak, but this silence was also a kind of tacit agreement. Just as Zichen was guessing where the other party came from, he perceived the aura of a third person. Like the man in front of him, the feeling he gave Zichen was also a contradictory attraction and repulsion. Chapter 47:13. In the Gaduan kingdom, the guardians were secret and not many people knew about them. In the past, Bumi led Zichen step by step and set up a trap for the young man in white. That was also because of the orders of the leader, the white-furred mouse. The white-furred mouse did all this because of the orders from the higher-ups. The guardians were a true secret, and only those at the leader level knew about them, because the guardians were really against people at the level of light fragrance. However, the white-furred mouse only knew that there was one guardian and was not aware of Gatai's existence. However, what was going on with the 2 in front of him? Where did these 2 guardians come from? Not only was Zichen curious, but even the other 2 had strange expressions on their faces. They had rushed over because they sensed the abnormality in the rules, but they were too late. Everything was over, and they only saw Zichen standing there. The 3 of them stared at each other, curious and vigilant. They did not take the initiative to attack. The atmosphere was silent and gradually became oppressive. Moreover, no one knew how long this silence would last. May I know how to address the 2 of you? Zichen looked at the 2 and took the initiative to break the silence. The 2 did not respond and instead became more vigilant. Zichen's expression did not change as he continued to cup his fists and said, "I'm Zichen from the Gaduan kingdom." When the 2 of them heard this, their expressions changed. After which, they glanced at each other and quickly put some distance between them. The expression in Zichen's eyes also changed. Through the expressions and actions of the 2, in addition to the intentional words from before, he could faintly guess the identities of the 2. This result shocked Zichen, and he found it hard to believe. The white-furred mouse said that he was happy here. In the heavenly kingdom, there were a total of 18 kings, and the Gaduan kingdom was only one of them. In other words, there were 17 kingdoms and 17 kings in addition to the Gaduan kingdom. If the guardians were not limited to the other world and were only limited to the guardians in the Gaduan kingdom, it meant that in the other 17 kingdoms, there were 2 guardians in each kingdom corresponding to the speech realm and the head realm. Of course, this was only Zichen's guess. Perhaps there was only one. What Zichen had seen so far were only 2 of the kingdoms. There were perhaps 15 other kingdoms that were similar to the 2 of them. This speculation shook Zichen's heart, because he and Gatai could devour each other. Didn't that mean that he could also devour each other with these guardians? The so-called attraction was due to the attraction of the rules. Similarly, the so-called rejection also originated from the rules. This discovery made Zichen feel uneasy, so he decided to leave this place first. After all, there were still many guardians. Perhaps all of them were on their way here. If they were to join forces, then he would not be able to leave even if he wanted to. Having made up his mind, Zichen once again cupped his fists at the 2 of them. "Gentlemen, I still have other matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave first." As he spoke, Zichen was still holding onto the spider's leg. It was unknown if the 2 of them were afraid, but they did not stop Zichen. With a tap of his foot, Zichen rapidly propelled himself forward through the air. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared from the 2's line of sight. After Zichen left, the 2 guardians looked at each other. It was unknown what each of them was thinking. At this moment, another person appeared. It was also a guardian. Zichen's perception was extremely strong, so even after leaving, he sensed the appearance of a 3rd guardian, then a 4th and a 5th. Everyone was still somewhat resistant to poison. Zichen looked at Cheng-Ho, who shook his head and said, "I only need this leg bone." Qin put away the 7 inner cores. He planned to give them to Zhang Haoyan after returning and let him refine them. Qin did not say anything about the other Tao protectors, because Cheng Ho and the others could not help. Once they learned about this, everyone would be worried for him. This was something Qin did not want to see. After the spiders retreated, everyone was safe. Everyone's mood to explore new opportunities was still as enthusiastic as ever. After all, everyone had come here for the opportunities here. Qin said, "Let's wait for a while." The Tao protectors had gathered together. They did not know what the situation was like. If they rashly went forward, they would probably cause trouble for themselves. Qin asked everyone. As soon as they arrived in this world, spiders appeared. These spiders were the most obvious enemies. In that case, it was necessary to follow the direction the spiders had left to take a look. For safety reasons, Qin stayed for a while and then deliberately refined Gatai's short sword. He did not have time to fuse the 2 short swords at the moment, so he only did some small refinement. However, this could still improve Qin's combat strength. After doing this, Qin led everyone into the distance. The direction was the direction the big spiders had left. At the same time, it was also the place where the Tao protectors had gathered. Qin predicted that those people had already left. Because there were too many of them, it was impossible for them to fight with each other immediately. Therefore, the biggest possibility was that they had retreated. Of course, they would return sooner or later. Qin wanted to take advantage of the time when they retreated to take everyone through that area and go to the place where the big spiders were hiding to take a look. As for becoming a demon, Qin did not have much hope. After seeing those Tao protectors, he guessed how he should go on the path of becoming a demon. The group deliberately sped up. When they arrived at the place where they had met the Tao protectors again, Qin did not see any other Tao protectors. This proved that his guess was correct. Following the tracks, Qin went to the place where the big spiders were hiding. When he arrived, Qin sensed a battle from afar. He was a little surprised, but then he smiled. Cheng Ho looked at Qin in confusion, not knowing why he was smiling. Qin said, "We found the people of God and Devil. We should be able to deal with them here. It seems that our luck is not bad this time." Then Qin looked at everyone. "You guys hide first. I'll go over first." There were still many spiders there, so it was useless for them to go over. After telling everyone to be careful again, Qin walked into the distance. After quietly approaching, Qin saw an interesting scene. All the spiders surrounded the people of God and Devil, but did not kill them. When they got close, they started to circle around them as if they had lost their direction. The few of them were retreating. Their faces were filled with fear and unwillingness. Qin saw everything. It was not that the spiders were merciful, but that Shan was very powerful. He did not know how to make the spiders lose their target. "Should we go up and try again?" A saint venerable from the devil race said, unwillingly, "Just a little bit more. Just a little bit more." Old Gus said angrily, "What time is it now? You're still thinking about that? If you miss this opportunity, you can encounter it again next time. If you lose your life, then you won't have any more chances. You too, be quiet. Don't alarm those big guys." Shan glared at the two. At the moment, he was already struggling. They kept retreating, and the spiders followed them in circles again and again. "Since we've run into them, then I'm sorry." Qin's lips curled into a cold smile. He did not need to be merciful to these people. He immediately attacked. His short sword turned into a beam of light and flew in another direction. There was a big spider there. It was not the one Qin could not kill before. It was something like a leader. Qin did not kill it. Instead, he left a hole in its body. The spider was in pain. It immediately broke free from the mental control it had been under. The small spiders that were circling in place immediately attacked Shan O's group. Qin heard a cry of surprise from afar. As for what happened next, Qin did not pay attention. He walked toward the spider that could reproduce. He had sensed its location long ago. During this time, Zi-Chun used a portion of the laws to create a layer of camouflage around himself. Wherever he passed, the small spiders did not notice. Chapter 47:14. In Zi-Chen's original perception, it was hazy and he couldn't see clearly. Therefore, he hid and approached and saw an image. In the image, the giant spider that Zi-Chun had broken a leg was recuperating in a small pool. The water in the pool was emitting specks of light. His broken leg was now slowly growing back. It could actually repair itself. Obviously, the pool of liquid that could regenerate the spider's leg and block Zi-Chen's perception was not ordinary. The opportunity that the unwilling gods and demons were talking about should be this liquid. Zi-Chen looked into the distance, where the gods and demons were fighting. Because of Zi-Chen's intervention, Shano's method was useless, and the two sides were fighting. However, the result was predictable, so Zi-Chen didn't care too much about it. Perhaps it was because of this glance, but the giant spider moved. Its mountain-like body turned and looked in Zi-Chen's direction. Just as Zi-Chen was guessing whether he had been discovered, a group of spider leaders started heading in his direction. Zi-Chen knew that he had been discovered, so he attacked without hesitation. Light flashed, and the short sword flashed like lightning in front of the giant spiders. Then, one spider leader after another fell to the ground. The giant spider saw this scene, recognized Zi-Chen, and began to move. The other small spiders found Zi-Chen's hiding place and came in his direction. Zi-Chen took the initiative to remove his concealment method. The moment he appeared, the approaching spiders were thrown away. The giant spider sped up. As for the extraordinary water in the pool, it decisively abandoned it. The other spiders immediately came in front, wanting to block Zi-Chen's path. Zi-Chen's figure flashed, and after a few times, he arrived in front of the pool of water. Surging vitality surged from the pool, and the vitality was unimaginably strong. Zi-Chen reached out and touched it lightly. The boundless energy in the pool seemed to be attracted, and it gathered in Zi-Chen's body. Then, Zi-Chen felt his strength improve a little. In addition to his strength, his body was also absorbing the energy, slowly growing stronger. This discovery made Zi-Chen's eyes light up. Obviously, if he continued to grow like this, his strength might be able to break through again. Even if he couldn't break through, this energy could increase his battle strength again. With this energy, Zi-Chen didn't have time to care about the escaping giant spider. Zi-Chen could tell that the spider was equivalent to a demon. What Zi-Chen didn't know was that when all the spiders retreated, the spiders that were fighting the gods and demons also left one by one. This caused Old Man Go and the others to secretly heave a sigh of relief, saying that it was a close call. As for the reason, they didn't know. Old Man Go asked, "What happened? Did you make them retreat?" After the attack, Shano had been trying to think of a solution, but it was useless. The giant spider suddenly became very irritable and didn't listen to his guidance at all. Shano shook his head and said, "I don't know." In fact, he really didn't know why the spiders retreated. Could it be that they met their natural enemy? A sacred master said, "I heard that this thing has many natural enemies. Maybe the natural enemy is here and it is fighting with it right now, so it has no time to care about us." Old Man Go looked at him and said, "What do you mean?" "A great opportunity is right in front of us. If we don't go and take a look, wouldn't it be a loss? What if? And I mean, what if we find the opportunity?" Just a moment ago, they were already next to the pool, but just as they felt the wonders of the pool, the big guy ran back. They could only run away immediately. Now that the situation was better, maybe they could go to the pool and take a look. Old Man Go was angry. "At this time, aren't you afraid of death? If we are going to die here sooner or later, why not try?" The sacred master said, Maybe there will be a chance." The others were also a bit tempted, because this was the closest they had ever been to an opportunity. After hesitating for a while, they still decided to go and take a look, hoping that there was a chance. They walked towards the pool. Everywhere they passed, there was not a single spider in sight. This made everyone smile. Perhaps this time, luck had really descended upon them. Just as they were about to reach the pool, they saw a person standing there, looking at them with a smile. After seeing the person's face, everyone's expression changed. Old Man cried out in alarm, "Retreat! Retreat quickly!" Everyone began to retreat, and now they finally understood the reason. "Don't you think it is too late to leave now?" Zi-Chun smiled coldly and stood still, but the two short swords, one on the left and one on the right, flew toward those existences. Whoosh! Whoosh! The short swords broke through the air, leaving a clear mark in the air. Next to Old Man Go, a sacred master fell. If it was in the outside world, it was almost impossible for Zi-Chun to kill the other party, but it was completely different here. The realms of the two sides were forced to be equal by the rules here, and at the same time the battle strength of the two sides had reached the same limit. In the situation where there were additional rules that could be used, Zi-Chun had no problem killing these sacred masters. The moment they saw Zi-Chun, their fates were already announced. They could have left, but because of their greed they lost their lives. One after another, the ancient sacred masters fell. During this time, Old Man Go blocked one of Zi-Chun's attacks, but it was only one. After the second short sword flew over, it killed the other party. When Chun Ho and the others heard the commotion and rushed over, they saw that the gods and demons had fallen in a pool of blood and no one was alive. A look of astonishment appeared on everyone's faces. But what was more shocking was that after seeing the pool, it contained a strong vitality that could be felt even from a distance. "What is that?" Li Haoqing asked. "It should be one of the opportunities here. Everyone go and feel it first." Hearing that, everyone immediately went forward. Soon, they felt the magical effects of the pool, and all of them became excited. For the giant spider's mountainous body, the pool wasn't that big, but for normal people it wasn't small at all. Time is of the essence. Everyone, hurry up and refine it. Zi-Chun also walked toward the pool and began to refine the power in the pool. Lei Jinke finished his tea, then got up and left. The honorable king had prepared a residence for him here. This time, Lei Jinke did not get any valuable information from the conversation, especially the coordinates that he cared about the most. How did Zi-Chun get the coordinates back then? And where the coordinates were had always been the biggest secret. The reason why he came this time was because of the various legends in the strange world. And another reason was that Lei Jinke wanted to find clues about the coordinates here. Lei Jinke had heard about the inverted world, but he did not care too much about it. He did not even go in to take a look because it was not very meaningful. Right now, his goal was to wait for the latest news to come out, or rather, wait for the information he cared about the most. As for the opportunities in the inverted world, he could let others fight for them first. After Lei Jinke left, the honorable king closed his eyes to rest. A moment later, a person walked in. How did it go? The honorable king did not open his eyes. That person said. After the inverted world appeared, it attracted the attention of many people. Those Tao protectors that were created by the monarchs all went over. The guardians all went there? Yes. What are the other kings' attitudes? Right now, everyone is watching. The person paused here, and his expression was hesitant. The honorable king opened his eyes. Don't worry. Just say what you want to say. For many years, the plans of those kings had never succeeded. In fact, you could even say that they had failed. But this time, because of Zi-Chun's appearance, they seemed to see hope and intentionally gathered the Tao protectors. The honorable king laughed. You mean to say that they want to watch the guardians fight, devour each other, and then become fiends? The person nodded. Yes, a fiend guardian is enough to intimidate all the kingdoms. The honorable king nodded. For many years, they've never succeeded. Now that they see hope, they can give it a try. If they really do succeed, then we? The person glanced at the Honorable King, but didn't finish his sentence. The Honorable King laughed. Don't worry about them. Let them fight. Let's see who wins in the end. Right, what about the other areas? Some people have discovered a few places of opportunity, but they all have powerful creatures. They don't look like the ones we have here, and supposedly there are opportunities to become fiends. Not like the ones we have here? The revered king's eyebrows furrowed slightly as he muttered. Could it be that he's from another world? He thought back to what Lejinka had said. Your Excellency, what should we do next? Seeing the Honorable King remain silent, the person asked. The Honorable King came to his senses. Ignore them for now, he said. Wait until more important opportunities appear. As for the Tao protectors, let them be. During this time, don't interfere. Yes, Your Excellency. Asterisk, 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 Zichin, and the others were the first to acquire the first opportunity. It seemed that the opportunity wasn't small, but it was obviously impossible for them to break through to the fiend realm after refining it. The resources could only strengthen their bodies and then increase their battle prowess. This increase in battle prowess might not be very eye-catching in this world, but once they returned to the saintly spirit realm, it would be a huge improvement. After all, there were differences in strength even among holy sovereigns. Zichin, who was also refining this energy, suddenly had a change in expression as he turned his head to look in a certain direction. Chapter 47:15. As soon as Zichin spoke, Chung Ho and the others were shocked. They all stopped refining and followed Zichen's gaze. They saw nothing. Zichen's eyes were still fixed in that direction. I know you're there, he said in a low voice. I've already guessed your identity. There's no point in continuing to hide. Everyone's expressions changed again. Chung Ho walked out, spider leg in hand. At that moment, a woman appeared. She wore a long white dress and stood barefoot under the tree. She was beautiful and slender. She looked at Zichin with a smile, but didn't say anything. Her smile was very kind. You guys continue refining. I'm going over. Zichin ordered, then walked forward. The others all looked at Han Nu. Although their gazes didn't change, their expressions were somewhat different. What are you looking at? Hurry up and refine it. Han Nu glared at them, then continued to refine the energy. Zichin walked forward until he was in front of the woman in the white dress. Tao Protector. She bowed to Zichin. Shangling, Zichin. Zichin was startled. Why did you show up at this time? She didn't seem to be hostile, so Zichin naturally couldn't ask her directly whether or not she was here to steal. I want to work with you. Shangling looked at Zichin. How? Zichin was a bit puzzled. I'll work with you to kill the other Tao protectors. Shangling said, once they're dead, all of the origin of laws will be yours. Zichin laughed. You think I'll believe you? This was no different from a meat pie falling from the sky. Who would put in so much effort and then not want anything in return? How about we step aside and talk? Shangling glanced into the distance. At this moment, the two of them were not far from where Chung Ho and the others were. Everyone could hear the conversation between the two of them. Zichin nodded. Shangling walked forward with Zichin following behind. After walking for a while, Shangling took the initiative to say, according to my observations, if the Tao protectors want to advance again, they will most likely have to fight and then devour each other. Zichin said, I think so too, so there's no possibility of us working together. Not necessarily, Shangling said. I know you. You come from another world. That is where you belong. In the end you will leave. Zichin said, what does this have to do with our hostility? After you leave, perhaps the origin of laws will no longer be of any use to you. Perhaps at that time you will take the initiative to give it to me. Even if you refine it yourself after you leave because of the completeness of the laws, Perhaps I, as the only Tao protector, will be able to obtain a reward from the world. Zi Chen looked at Xiangling, seriously sizing her up for the first time. It had to be said that her concept was very novel. This possibility might really exist. However, there was still a problem. Zi Chen said, "What if, after killing them, I still haven't broken through? Then, in the end, won't I still have to kill you? If that's the case, won't you just make a big enemy for yourself by helping me earlier?" Xiangling stopped and turned to look at Zi Chen. This possibility is actually possible, but it's not big. Even if it's true in the end, death is death. Why? Zi Chen was puzzled. Because I will die sooner or later. If I join forces with you, at least I have a chance to survive. Even if I die, I may be the last one. If I cooperate with them, I may be the first to die. There was some truth in her words, and for Zi Chen there was no harm. However, the two had just met for the first time. How could they trust each other? Xiangling seemed to know Zi Chen's concerns and directly said, "I know where a Tao protector is. We can go find him first and use him as our first cooperation." Zi Chen thought about it and felt that it was feasible. Instead of staying with Cheng Ho and the others to refine the few resources, it was better to find a Tao protector, kill them, and refine their origin of laws. Before leaving, Zi Chen went back and specifically reminded everyone to be careful. If there was any danger, they should escape first. Compared to life, opportunities were naturally nothing. After that, he and Xiangling left. Under Xiangling's lead, Zi Chen really found a Tao protector. When the other party saw the two appear, he was obviously surprised. Without saying too much, the short sword began to howl. Zi Chen didn't have time to refine it, so he could only fight like this. Then Zi Chen rushed forward. Xiangling was on guard at the side. According to the previous agreement with Zi Chen, she needed to find the best opportunity to kill in one blow. Perhaps because he was worried about Xiangling, the Tao protector who was always on guard was very passive. He was at a disadvantage from the beginning. The short sword whistled past and penetrated the Tao protector's body. Before dying, the Tao protector left a very long knife mark on Zi Chen's body. The long knife fell in the distance. The Tao protector was dead. Zi Chen glanced at the wound, and then glanced at Xiangling, who was not far away and hadn't made a move. After Zi Chen looked over, Xiangling nodded and smiled. Her expression looked very indifferent, but in fact, the shock in her heart had long been indescribable. Because Zi Chen was too strong, it was so easy for him to kill a Tao protector of the same level. At the same time, she was also very glad that she had made the most correct choice. The origin of the natural law appeared. This time there was no repulsion, only attraction. In the face of this strong attraction, Xiangling took the initiative to retreat. This was also a statement to Zi Chen. In fact, talking to Zi Chen about cooperation was originally a gamble. But in order to succeed this time, she went to some places that she shouldn't have gone to and deliberately inquired about some information. This made her determined to cooperate with Zi Chen. In fact, this kind of cooperation could be said to be completely helping Zi Chen. A person who could choose to protect his friends without hesitation between life and death was not bad. This was the key to her coming here. Otherwise, even if Zi Chen believed her, how could she believe Zi Chen? Zi Chen stepped forward and directly refined the origin of the natural law. During this time, he didn't hold back. He had already put away the short sword, but the long sword was still not far away. Zi Chen closed his eyes and sat down cross-legged. He was going to refine now. Xiangling didn't even look at the saber. Instead, she reminded him, "The commotion here isn't small. I think we should leave first. If the other Tao protectors find out that we're working together, we'll be in trouble." Zi Chen opened his eyes and said that it made sense. Then he immediately picked up the long sword and walked back the way he came. Once again, he came to the pool where Cheng Ho and the others were refining. They were still refining. Zi Chen began to refine the origin of the natural law. Shanling was still standing in the distance, but this time in addition to protecting Ziqin, she also protected Cheng Ho and the others. At the place where the previous battle was, Dao protectors quickly came, but the battle was already over. The original surging power of the natural law had disappeared, so no one could see any important information. Moreover, everyone was fighting for themselves. After appearing, they quickly left and didn't stay here. One Dao protector after another appeared, and one Dao protector after another left. Ziqin opened his eyes. The origin of the natural law had been completely refined by him, and his combat power had increased a lot. Congratulations. Shanling leaned against a big tree. Ziqin felt his own state and then asked, "Is there a way to find the next one?" "Yes, but it will take some time." Shanling nodded and then asked, "How do you feel now?" "I'm a lot stronger. If I encounter another Dao protector, I should be able to finish the battle faster." Ziqin said, truthfully, "Can you sense when to break through?" "I can't." Shanling was a little disappointed, but everything was within her expectations. Next, the two continued to look for Dao protectors. Shanling had a special perception that allowed her to sense the location of the Dao protector. This time, it didn't take too much time for her to find the location of Dao protectors. There was more than one, but two of them were engaged in a life and death battle. As they approached, the battle between the two had come to an end. Both of them were covered in scars. Ziqin took the initiative to appear. The two turned around vigilantly and immediately fled to the sides. Whoosh! Whoosh! Two short swords, each as fast as lightning, came forward and reaped the two's lives. Then Ziqin took their weapons and left with two origin of the natural law. The two left very quickly because it was very likely that other Dao protectors would appear. In this way, the number of Dao protectors was slowly decreasing. Shanling used her talent to find Dao protectors one after another. At the same time, those Dao protectors also began to kill each other. After Cheng Ho and the others refined the resources in the pool, although none of them had broken through, their combat power had increased a lot. This made them even more certain that there was an opportunity to become an evil demon here. Therefore, one by one, they went to look for other opportunities and strive to advance here. At the same time, the evil demons of the other kingdoms also entered the inverted world and began to explore the secrets of this world. Ziqin was still searching for the Dao protectors and killing them. Whenever he had some free time, he would refine the weapons he obtained. Ziqin found that not only could the two short swords fuse and refine, but he could also refine and fuse the other weapons he killed. Moreover, when refining the other weapons, Ziqin felt that his laws were perfected. Shanling hadn't refined a single origin of the natural law. She didn't want the weapons after killing the Dao protectors. Ziqin first fused the two short swords together, making them even more powerful. Then he began to refine the long saber. After refining it into a pure law, he fused it into the short swords. Chapter 47:16. The short sword slowly rotated around him as Ziqin sat cross-legged with a long sword in front of him. This sword was the weapon of a dead Dao protector and was currently being refined by Ziqin. As for the origin of laws, he had already finished refining it a long time ago. Shanling stayed not far away, using her perception. It had to be said that it was getting harder and harder to find other Dao protectors recently. Recently, besides the two of them, the other Dao protectors were also engaged in life and death battles, and many of them had already obtained the origin of laws. Shanling glanced into the distance and estimated that it would get more and more difficult from now on. Perhaps she, who had been watching the battle all this time, would also take action. She looked back at Ziqin again. The road Ziqin was going to take next was extremely difficult, and she didn't know how far he would go in the end. The long sword in front of Ziqin began to change, slowly turning into pure laws. The short sword stopped in front of him, and Zi Chen injected these laws into it. The short sword began to absorb these laws. This process lasted for a long time, and it didn't require any extra effort. Zi Chen put away the short sword and stood up. For it to exist in the form of a short sword, it should be related to the fact that you once refined two similar weapons, and everything after that was led by it. Shanling said as she watched the short sword disappear. Zi Chen nodded in agreement. I haven't made a breakthrough yet, and through my perception, the breakthrough may be far away. Shanling said with a smile, That doesn't matter. There are still many Tao protectors. This time, Zi Chen shook his head and said with a more solemn expression, Maybe not. Shanling fell silent. Previously, when Zi Chen was refining, she went out several times to try to sense the existence of the Tao protectors, but she didn't find anything. She already had a guess in her heart, but she didn't tell Zi Chen. Obviously, Zi Chen had already guessed it. Zi Chen's voice sounded again. However, this may not be a bad thing. Maybe we can wipe out all the Tao protectors this time. Of course, the process will be accompanied by great risks. What do you mean? Shanling stared at Zi Chen in disbelief. At this point, we can only lure the snake out of its hole. Zi Chen smiled. Do you want to come along? Shanling nodded. Of course. She could guess what Zi Chen was going to do. Of course, she would go with him. At this point, the two of them were already standing together. There was no room for retreat. Let's go then. Zi Chen looked into the distance. He still didn't have an accurate direction. Now, don't you need to wait until your weapon is completely refined? There's no need for that. I don't have a specific goal for now anyway. I can refine it slowly as I walk. Then, the two of them set foot on the road ahead. Along the way, Zi Chen would use the power of rules to deal with some small beasts that they encountered. Shanling was right next to Zi Chen. She was using her perception to search for any anomalies. After walking for about 5 kilometers, Zi Chen suddenly changed direction. What's wrong? Did you find something? No, I just want to see that big spider. I don't know if it has found a similar place of opportunity recently. The direction Zi Chen was heading in was the direction that the big spider escaped. During this period, he didn't deliberately speed up. He just mobilized the power of rules from time to time. Just like that, they moved forward for hundreds of kilometers. After spending a lot of time, Zi Chen finally saw someone. Shanling's expression changed. She looked at Zi Chen. Zi Chen said, Don't worry about it. Let's keep moving forward. Shanling was very surprised. Zi Chen's perception was clearly the same as hers. One must know that this was her unique method and also her proudest method. In her perception, a protector came from behind. He was carefully following them. He didn't try to get close. He just followed them. After following them for about 10 kilometers, the other party left. The two of them pretended that nothing had happened, but they knew very well that the fish was about to take the bait. Same old rules. You watch from the side and help when necessary, Zi Chen said with a smile. Shanling said with a wry smile, At first, I was hoping to help a few times. At least I could show you my combat strength. But now, I hope that I don't have to do anything. Zi Chen said, Don't be nervous. Let's see how many people there are. Maybe it's not as bad as we think. Shanling's smile became more bitter. There are quite a lot of people coming. Zi Chen's expression also changed. There are quite a lot of people. In Zi Chen's perception, for people appeared, and they were coming from 4 different directions. Soon, the 4 of them appeared in Zi Chen's field of vision. The 4 of them were all young men. The one who appeared in front of Zi Chen was a burly man. He held a huge machete in his hand. There were laws flowing around the blade, and there were serrations on the back of the blade. The burly man grinned at Zi Chen. The 2 of you are good at hiding. It's really not easy to find you. Why are you looking for me? Zi Chen stared at the burly man warily. The burly man smiled sarcastically. There's no point in pretending in front of us. Let me introduce myself. I'm Gully from the kingdom of Gulai. At this moment, a voice came from behind Zichen. Big brother Gully, leave this beautiful lady to me. Speaking of which, we have 18 Tao protectors. I didn't expect that there would be such a lady among us. It was a scholarly man. He smiled and stepped forward. His eyes were fixed on Shanling's back, wandering around her wonderful curves. Gully snorted. If you're not afraid of death, go ahead and try. However, I have to remind you that she's a Tao protector. She's different from those coquettish foxes. The smile on the scholar's face did not diminish. Big brother Gully, you can rest assured. This little brother has a lot of experience. I'll cripple her first, and when she's powerless to struggle, I'll take what I want from her. After a pause, the scholar continued. But according to my contribution, I should be able to get a complete source of laws. How about I take her in completely? Gully said indifferently. Your contribution was used to exchange for the source of laws last time. If you want to get a complete one, it's far from enough. The scholar slapped his forehead and said, Look at my memory. I forgot. Forget it. I'll just enjoy it. Zichen remained silent and didn't speak. The other two didn't say much, but their attention was on Zichen. Zichen could clearly feel the vigilance of the two. As for the casual conversation, perhaps it was just to let Zichen relax his vigilance. Perhaps they already knew that he had killed many Tao protectors. Shanling glanced at Zichen and didn't speak, but the questioning look in her eyes was very obvious. Zichen slowly shook his head and then asked, So, of the 18 Tao protectors, only the 4 of you are left? The scholar behind said, No, to be precise, there are 6. You didn't count yourself and the little girl. Zichen's expression remained unchanged, and he said, So, after the 2 of us die, one of the 4 of you will die. Gully said, This trick of yours is really unpresentable. Is that so? Then I'm a little curious. If the 4 of you come together, and I hurt one of you, how will you deal with the injured one? Zichen's face showed a smile. Will the 3 of you work together to protect him, or will the 3 of you work together to kill him, and then divide the source of laws that belongs to him? When saying this, Zichen perceived the changes in the expressions of those people. Although they looked normal at the moment, everyone's eyes flashed. This problem couldn't be avoided after all. In the end, only one of them would survive. The alliance in front of them would collapse sooner or later. What's more, only the few of them were alive now. Soon, life and death would be determined here. Big brother Gully, this kid is more slippery than we thought. He actually wants to use this method to divide us. The scholar smiled sarcastically, but you are too naive. The moment we formed an alliance, it was to kill the other Tao protectors. As for advancing to a higher realm, we can find other opportunities. There's no need to kill each other at all. Zichen looked back at the scholar. Are you sure? Of course. As soon as his voice fell, his pupils suddenly shrank, because Zichen's figure had disappeared. His expression immediately changed, and he retreated. Shanling, who also turned around, pointed a finger at the scholar, and a straight ray of light shot towards the scholar's glabella. The scholar immediately dodged, narrowly avoiding this attack. At this moment, a solid fist appeared in his field of vision and hit his face. In the situation where the laws were suppressed, the power of this fist was not small. The scholar's body rolled in midair, and after landing, he coughed out several mouthfuls of blood. Zichen returned to his original position, and the other 3 were on guard. They didn't expect this guy to dare to take the initiative to attack. Moreover, the speed was so fast. The scholar was not weak, but he vomited blood after being hit by a punch. The scholar's face was a little pale. He stood up and looked coldly at Zichen. Zichen pretended to be surprised and said, you're injured. That's a pity. I don't know if the 3 of them will protect you. I don't think this possibility is big because they didn't intend to make a move before. They even had the idea of watching you die. The scholar's expression began to change, and he glanced coldly at the three of them. Zi-Chun continued, "If I were you, I would withdraw now and retreat to a place where I can treat my injuries. Then, the two of us will fight the three of them to the death. If you can come in time, you might be able to see both of us suffer, and then take a big advantage." Zi-Chen stretched out 5 fingers and said, "These are 5 sources of the laws. Maybe you can take this opportunity to break through and become a demon in one fell swoop." "Humph!" The scholar snorted coldly. "Don't talk nonsense here. I won't believe you." Chapter 47:17. The scholar was really going to retreat, which surprised Shanling. After all, Zi-Chun had only said a few words, and the other party was only slightly injured, which did not affect the battle at all. Yet it had such an effect. The expressions of the other two also changed. They looked at Galay and were a little anxious. If the scholar left, the 3 of them might not be able to deal with the 2 of them easily. Moreover, they had to consider what Zi-Chen had said earlier. This alliance was originally formed because of benefits, and once there were no benefits, the structure of the alliance would naturally collapse. "Lao Ka, don't listen to his nonsense. The things we agreed on before will not change no matter what." At this moment, another voice sounded. This voice came from another direction, and it belonged to the 7th guardian on the scene. We've already said before that after killing those guardians, we'll look for other opportunities. If you want to become a devil, plundering is not the only way. After the other party appeared, both the scholar and Gulei heaved a sigh of relief. Zi-Chen and Shanling were not surprised by the other party's appearance at all. The other party looked at Zi-Chen. "You've already guessed it." Zi-Chen said a little. The other party smiled. "In that case, there's no need to hide it. Anyway, it's the last battle." He waved his hand, and another person walked out from the dark. At this point, all the guardians were present. Zi-Chen released his perception and did not find any other guardians. This time, he believed that there were only 8 of them left among the 18 guardians. Their auras surged out, forming a space around them that isolated the rules. Within this range, no one could use the rules. Zi-Chen looked at the 6 of them and smiled. The existence that had just walked out asked, "What are you smiling about?" "I'm smiling that there are only 6 of you, and you actually dared to ambush me. You're really brave." In Zi-Chen's eyes, there were clearly 6 enemies of the head realm. To put it bluntly, it was just 1 against 6. All this time, Zi-Chen had been using the rules to battle, but in fact his true strength lay in not using the rules. To Zi-Chen, fighting 6 people of the same level as him was nothing. Thus, under his smile, there was a trace of pity in his eyes. It was really sad that these guys were his enemies. Stay on guard at the side. The main thing is to guard against them. Don't let them escape. Once they escape today, it will be difficult to find them again. This was Zi-Chen's voice transmission, and only Shanling could hear it. Shanling was very surprised. She didn't know where Zi-Chen's confidence came from. Let's begin. Facing the 6 powerful guardians, Zi-Chen chose to take the initiative to attack. His target was still that scholar who seemed to be called Lauka. His name didn't matter anymore. This time, the speed Zi-Chen displayed was even faster than before. Just as Lao Ka was startled and retreated, the fist had already arrived. This fist hit Lao Ka's face again, causing his body to flip backward. Zi-Chen immediately followed. During this time, several weapons swept past where he was standing. They were the attacks of the other guardians. Shanling tactfully retreated, not intending to intervene in this battle. The other guardians seemed to see that Zi-Chen was the biggest problem, so they ignored Shanling and attacked Zi-Chen one after another. Shanling remembered Zi-Chen's words. While retreating, she stared at the 6 of them to see which one of them would try to escape. Qin continued to follow. The second punch landed, causing Lao Ka to retreat again. Then the third and fourth punch followed. The others finally rushed forward and joined forces to attack. Under the layers of attacks, Qin could only give up on Lao Ka and fight with the others. All kinds of fierce attacks flashed, and Qin wandered among the attacks. Lao Ka stood up and spat out blood again. His face was ashen. That guy was actually attacking him. If the first punch was only a light injury, then the next 4 punches were serious injuries. Moreover, each punch was much stronger than the previous one. Obviously, the other party had deliberately held back during the first punch. However, Lao Ka didn't intend to warn the other 5. While he was adjusting his breath, he looked at the woman in the white dress not far away. The other party smiled at him and even nodded as a friendly greeting. "I'll deal with you later." Lao Ka gave a cold stare in return. Then he summoned a sword light and attacked Qin from afar. At this moment, he didn't dare to get close to Qin. Jiren held the huge machete in his hand and appeared in front of Qin in a flash. He slashed at Qin. Qin dodged sideways, and a short sword appeared in his hand. He held the short sword and stabbed it at Jiren's heart. Puff! It was completely submerged. During this time, 3 bloody wounds appeared on Qin's body. These wounds were left by the other 3 people. Because Qin wanted to see blood on Jiren, he couldn't avoid the other attacks. Jiren covered his wounds and retreated step by step. He looked at Qin in disbelief. He didn't expect Qin to use this move. It was obvious that he was exchanging injuries for injuries. The 3 bloody wounds on Qin's body were no lighter than his. Xiangling watched nervously from afar. She didn't expect Qin to be injured at this time. This was not what she expected. Chi! Powerful attacks appeared again. She realized that some of the attacks that Qin should have been able to dodge, but he didn't. Even if he was injured, he wanted to leave something on his opponent's body. Moreover, from the start of the battle until now, he had only attacked with the short sword and hadn't used the special techniques of the short sword. According to her understanding of the short sword, it wasn't difficult to kill a Dao protector in a surprise attack. As for why, she still couldn't figure it out. However, as the battle continued, the 6 people had wounds on their bodies. Qin had the most serious injuries because he was fighting 1 against 6. Do it! At this moment, she heard Qin's voice transmission and attacked without hesitation. However, just as Xiangling made her move, the others were also on guard. Obviously, they were wary of Xiangling. Qin took advantage of the moment when they were distracted and came in front of Jiren. The short sword in his hand once again stabbed into his opponent's body. Another wound for another wound. Jiren retreated with serious injuries. He was shocked and didn't dare to move forward. 2 of the Dao protectors went to attack Xiangling, while the other 3 were still fighting with Qin. The pressure on Qin was greatly reduced, and he added more wounds to the 3 of them. As a result, the 4 of them chose to retreat and use the weapons in their hands to attack from a distance. Looking at Qin, who was fighting in front of them, there was a hint of fear in their eyes. Xiangling had never killed a Dao protector or refined an origin of the natural order, so she was no match for the 2 of them, even though they were already injured. Her white dress began to be stained with blood, and her aura became unstable. Under Qin's voice transmission, she immediately retreated. She came to Qin's side, and the 6 people surrounded them again. At this time, everyone was not in a good state, but looking at the current situation, of course, the side with more people had the upper hand. If it weren't for the fact that everyone was restraining each other, these injuries were actually nothing to the Dao protectors. But now these were fatal injuries. Qin glanced into the distance. A Dao protector asked, "What are you looking at?" Qin said, "Truthfully, I suspect that there are Dao protectors hiding in the dark, waiting for us to fight and injure each other." The expressions of the others changed, and the Tao protector who spoke sneered. What's the point of playing these tricks at this time? Even if you can make this world collapse, you still have to die today. Is that so? Then let's see who lives and who dies. Zi-Chun rushed forward once again, and Xiangling helped him from the side. After the powerful shock waves, the battle once again paused for a short while. This time, the 8 people's injuries were even more serious. There was still no movement in the distance, and in Zi-Chen's perception, there was no abnormal situation. If there are really Tao protectors watching now, they can easily reap our lives. However, Zi-Chen, who was still a little worried, glanced at Xiangling next to him. Xiangling closed her eyes. She, who was riddled with wounds, once again used her innate talent. The 6 people did not immediately take action, obviously waiting for the result. After 5 breaths, Xiangling opened her eyes and shook her head at Zi-Chen. I didn't find anything. Zi-Chen was relieved inside. It seems that we are the only Tao protectors left. Golay held the machete and sneered. What? Do you have any last words? Of course not. I just feel that it's not worth it for you. Tell me, isn't it good to stay in your own kingdom and be an existence that no one can kill? Why do you have to come out to die? A short sword appeared in Zi-Chen's hand. The scholar at the side said coldly, You're all about to die, yet you dare to boast shamelessly here. Fine. Then I'll let you see the true power of my short sword. Zi-Chen let go of his hand, and the short sword floated in the air. Everyone's eyes lit up as if lightning had flashed. They made different movements, but their movements were all frozen in the next moment. In the blink of an eye, the lightning disappeared, and the short sword returned to Zi-Chen's side. Zi-Chen grabbed the short sword and said, This is the fusion of several weapons. Do you really think it's so weak? In Zi-Chen's vision, the 6 people stood there motionless, and there was an obvious wound on their heads. The wound penetrated the same place, on both sides of the temple. The 6 people widened their eyes and looked at Zi-Chen in disbelief. The situation, which they originally had the upper hand, was reversed in an instant, and it was so thorough. The weapons in the hands of the 6 people fell to the ground, and their bodies were also on the verge of collapse and finally fell to the ground. After they died, their bodies began to collapse, and the origin of the laws appeared. There were a total of 6. Xiangling stood beside Zi-Chen. This was the first time she saw 6 origin of the laws appear at the same time, and the attraction was almost irresistible. Zi-Chen walked forward and took the origin of the laws. Chapter 47:18. Zi-Chen walked towards the origin of the natural order. When he got close, he waved his hand and collected the origin of the natural order. He also picked up the weapons on the ground. Xiangling looked at Zi-Chen's back. She watched him slowly pick up the origin of the natural order that was very attractive to her despite his serious injuries. She was silent. Her heart was a little complicated, but there was no struggle in her mind. This struggle had ended a long time ago. So when she saw Zi-Chen take away the origin of the natural order and pick up the weapons, she was relieved. At least there was no accident, right? Interesting, really interesting. At this moment, there was a faint laugh. A person appeared in front of them. Zi-Chen looked up at the other party. Just a moment ago, he didn't feel anything. He didn't expect that there would be another person here in the next moment. He looked back at Xiangling. Her expression was the same. It could be seen that this person's concealment method was extremely brilliant. Zi-Chen tried to summon the natural order to restore his vitality, but he didn't succeed. Guardian. Zi-Chen looked at the other party and was shocked. I'm very curious. What's the relationship between the 2 of you? How did you manage to not kill each other? The man who appeared said uninterestedly, I thought there would be a good show, but I didn't expect to see anything. Instead, you seized the opportunity to take away the origin of the natural order. If I knew this would happen, I would have attacked you directly. Although he didn't directly admit it, He indirectly admitted his identity. Zi Chen looked at the other party and said, I don't believe that they would get the number of guardians wrong. You're not one of the 18 guardians. The other party smiled. What if they got it wrong? One person might get it wrong, but 6 people together won't be wrong, Zi Chen said with certainty. So, you're not from the 18 kingdoms. Where are you from? Shan Ling's expression changed. The other party looked at Zi Chen seriously. It seems that your mind is really extraordinary. You can even guess this. Zi Chen's expression changed slightly. He had said those words on purpose, and his tone of certainty was also intentional. He had never thought that the other party would actually be from outside the 18 kingdoms. Then the man looked at Shan Ling. You look too innocent. If you stay with him, you won't even know if he sells you off. He pointed at Zi Chen. Do you know how many times this guy has plotted against you in the previous battle? Shan Ling shook her head, indicating that she did not know. A total of 3 times. The first time was when you retreated. He seemed to be nice to you, but in fact he wanted you to attract some of the firepower. The second time was when he asked you to attack. He deliberately tricked you. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been hiding his strength all this time. The third time was the last time he collected the spoils of war. In other words, when he left his back to you, he deliberately schemed against you. The other party sighed. What a pity. You didn't know what to do and made me miss another good show. Shan Ling remained silent, not saying a word. The man continued, What's wrong? Are you disappointed? Who would have thought that the person you trusted would scheme against you like this? Zi Chen had closed his eyes in the previous moment. At this moment, he was trying his best to recover from his injuries. However, his speed was not fast because he could not use the power of laws. As for the other party's words, he did not care. In fact, he could not wait for the other party to continue. Look, he's deliberately acting like that. He's trying to make you think that I'm spouting nonsense. Shan Ling glanced at Zi Chen. Then, she nodded seriously at the man, implying that he was right. Then, the man looked at Shan Ling with a smile. However, he found that the other party did not do anything. Shan Ling just stood there and looked at him. Why are you looking at me? He's plotting against you. Don't you know? The man's expression changed. I know. Shan Ling nodded again. Then why don't you attack? The man asked, puzzled. Shan Ling thought for a moment and said, I'm thinking about how to attack. The other party was so angry that he laughed. What was there to think about? However, he quickly reacted. A trace of anger appeared on his face. You're toying with me. Obviously, the other party did not believe what he said. However, he did not interrupt because he wanted to buy some time for Zi Chen to recover. You're courting death. Hearing this conclusion, the other party shouted angrily and immediately rushed forward. A strong wind came head-on, bringing with it an oppressive aura. Feeling this aura, Zi Chen opened his eyes. He took a step forward and struck out with his palm. There was a loud boom. Zi Chen's body flew backward and landed dozens of feet away. After landing, Zi Chen coughed up blood. Zi Chen took the initiative to block the attack. Shan Ling quickly retreated and came in front of Zi Chen to check on Zi Chen's injuries. Today, I'm just teaching you a lesson. At the same time, I'm telling you that there's always someone better than you. Don't be so arrogant. To be honest, I just don't like the rules of you guardians. It's not that I can't obtain them. If I want them, I only need to beckon, and you'll obediently give them to me. After saying this, the other party turned around and left. Zi Chen stared at the other party's back. A trace of coldness flashed in his eyes. The other party's attack was not as simple as just teaching him a lesson. Now his internal organs were still surging. The power formed was beyond imagination. How are you? Shan Ling looked at Zi Chen with concern. Zi Chen shook his head and closed his eyes again. The rules of heaven and earth began to converge in this direction. Then, Countless vitality came with it. This meant that the other party had left. Of course, it was also possible that the other party had stopped suppressing the rules. As the vitality entered his body, Zichen's injuries began to recover. It seems that I've missed an exciting battle. Another voice sounded from behind Zichen. It was a Gashan person. A Gashan person who dared to appear after such a huge commotion was obviously not an ordinary leader. Zichen stood up and turned his head to look at the other party. The surging vitality was still gathering in Zichen's body. The Gashan person looked at him and frowned. Zichen did not pay attention to the other party and just focused on recovering. Suddenly, the Gashan person moved. Without saying a word, he came in front of Zichen and punched at Zichen. Although his injuries had not recovered, Zichen did not panic at all. The rules in front of him circulated. He clenched his fists and crossed them in front of his body. A rule protection appeared. When the fist landed, Zichen retreated. The rule protection was on the verge of collapse. As long as the enemy was not a guardian, Zichen was not afraid of anyone, even if it was a demon. The Gashan person's figure flashed and approached again. Another punch landed. Zichen's rule protection was directly shattered. His body slid back again. His expression did not change. There was even a cold smile at the corner of his mouth. If you don't run next, I'll admire you very much. During this time, the life force of the rules was still surging. Therefore, Zichen's injuries were recovering with every breath. The broken rules would also appear soon. The demon's attack did not consume Zichen at all. The Gashan person turned his head and glanced at Xiangling. She had already retreated far away and had already mobilized the power of the rules. The Gashan person glanced at Zichen again. Then he turned around and left. Zichen watched the other party leave. His eyes became very cold. However, the appearance of the other party also indirectly proved that he now had the strength to fight against the demon. Chapter 47:19. This Gashan demon who attacked Zichen quickly left. Not long after, he came in front of a person and saluted with both hands clasped. Lord, the battle between the guardians has ended. That person turned around and looked at Gashan demon. It was Geduin King from the Geduin Kingdom. Oh, how is it? Geduin King asked curiously. Just as my lord expected, Zichen was the one who obtained victory. He obtained all the source of the origin of laws. Geduin Wang smiled and said, I knew it would be like this. That outsider is really not ordinary. Gashan demon's expression was hesitant, as if he had something to say. Geduin King was in a good mood. If you have something to say, just say it. When I went over earlier, I sensed that one of the protectors had left. Besides Zichen, there was another protector who was following him. It seems that Zichen and that guardian are allies, but she is much weaker than Zichen. Gashan demon said what he saw earlier. It's rare to see a guardian leave. Maybe she came from that place. We don't need to care about it for the time being. Geduin King pondered slightly, just that. That guardian beside Zichen seems to be a bit problematic. However, according to Zichen's wisdom, he shouldn't be tricked. Let's wait and watch him closely. Everything will wait until he becomes a demon. Yes, Gashan demon left. Zichen sat cross-legged on the ground and began to refine the origin of the law he got. Xiangling was still guarding beside him. This time, her eyes were filled with expectation. If Zichen can successfully advance this time, she would be the only guardian left in this world. In the future, suddenly, her somewhat excited mood changed because she thought of a person. That Dao protector who left was extremely powerful. He didn't even care about the origin of these laws. From that tone, Xiangling vaguely guessed the identity of the other party, and her mood became depressed. This was something she didn't expect. Or it could be said that all the guardians didn't expect this. Perhaps there was still a change in everything. As time passed, Shanling stood there alone, thinking about the various possibilities of the future. However, the worst-case scenario was that he would be killed by Zichen and refined. However, she, who had been with Zichen for a long time, did not believe that this would happen. Zichen was still refining the origin of laws. Because there were a lot of them this time, it would take a long time. The Tao protector who had left did not return. Also, that demon never appeared. Shanling was so bored that she was a little dazed. If it wasn't a special existence, it was almost impossible to suddenly appear beside them and launch a sneak attack. Lady looked around and then returned to the pagoda. He was still looking at the pagoda. He had been sizing it up for a long time, but he had not entered. It was not that he did not want to, but after many attempts he had returned without success. The rules that had always been successful seemed to have lost all effect in front of this tower. Above the pagoda of confinement, the black air continued to flow downwards and then spread in all directions. He planned to continue waiting. Perhaps the door would open one day. The honored king looked at Lei Jinka in front of him and said with a pleasant expression, "From the clues we have found so far, there is no real demon opportunity. There are only some inconspicuous resources, but it is not enough for the leader to become a demon." Lei Jinka said, "The inverted world has never appeared before. Perhaps the honored king should pay attention to it. My strength is limited, so it is useless for me to go there. However, the honored king can go there and take a look. Perhaps you will find something." The honored king nodded and said, "There are already other kings there. Once there is a major discovery, they will inform you. When the time comes, I hope Mr. will go there with me." "Of course." Lei Tianshi left the honored king's residence and went in the opposite direction. He did not meet Lei Di during this time. As for the little scheme of the honored king and Lei Jinka, he did not care, even if there was a part of it that was scheming against Zichen. Lei Tianshi knew Zichen very well. After all, he had accompanied Zichen for a long time and had seen Zichen's past. He knew Zichen's nature and mind very well. Xue Wu was a little worried, but he could not show himself, so he could only leave with Lei Tianshi. Zichen opened his eyes after refining the origin of natural law. Shanling looked at him expectantly, but Zichen shook his head and felt apologetic. Shanling shook her head and said, "It's okay." Zichen said, "The origin of law can only improve one's control and perception of the laws, but it cannot directly increase one's realm. Perhaps we have taken the wrong path." "Then what other way?" Shanling asked. "You saw the liquid in the pool, right? I think that thing should be able to help us break through, but the prerequisite is that there is enough of it." While speaking, Zichen took out the other 6 weapons and began to refine them. He needed to make the daggers more powerful. As for Shanling, of course, he would not kill her and refine her. That was not Zichen's style of doing things. Even if he knew that after killing her, he would be able to advance to the Devil Realm, Zichen would not do it, even if the price was that he would never be able to break through to the Devil Realm. Shanling sat next to him and continued to be in a daze. At this moment, she was in a very good mood, because Zichen did not have the intention to kill her. If he did, he could have done it earlier. After refining so many origin of law, she was no longer Zichen's opponent and could be easily killed. But Zichen did not, which made her very happy. At the same time, she also knew that she had made the right bet. Next, it was up to Zichen how to proceed. 6 weapons, one by one, were refined by Zichen. During this time, Shanling would occasionally look around vigilantly. Every time a powerful existence approached this place, she would be able to sense it. But when the approaching existences noticed the 2 of them, they would change their direction. Those people were all devils. It seemed that many devils had entered this place. Perhaps many leaders had advanced to the Devil Realm. However, Shanling was more willing to believe that it was the former, because even in this strange world, it was not easy for the Geshiren, who were more in tune with the Tao of heaven and earth, to become a Devil Realm. After he finished refining all the weapons, Zichen stood up and stretched his back. The dagger that had become even sharper turned into a ray of light and disappeared in front of Zichen. In Xiangling's perception, the dagger, which had been refined many times, had become even sharper and more terrifying. "Are we leaving?" Xiangling asked. "We are leaving, but before that, there is a question that I need you to answer." "What is it?" "You seem to know where the guardian who left last time came from." Chapter 47:20. The High King's territory was a brand new area. It was a power outside of the 18 kings, or rather, the power that ruled the 18 kings. Before coming to this inverted world, Xiangling had been staying in her own kingdom and had never gone out. The kingdom she was in was called Gamin Kingdom. After coming to this inverted world, she found out for the first time that there were more than a dozen guardians. Every kingdom had one, but she didn't expect that there would be one in the High King's kingdom. After listening to Xiangling's explanation, Zichen asked, "So the kings in their respective kingdoms are actually the subordinates of the High King?" Xiangling said, "You can say that as long as the High King gives an order, all the kingdoms have to follow the High King's orders." Zichen nodded, seeming to understand the relationship between the two. The so-called Letian kingdom should be the place where the High King lived. That was the embryonic form of the kingdom, and the 18 kings were just expanded areas later. Then, another doubt arose in Zichen's mind. Every kingdom had a guardian, so where did these guardians come from? Were they born naturally, or were they deliberately created by the kings? If it was the former, everything would be fine. But if it was the latter, no matter how much one grew, they would not be a match for the kings. Thinking of this possibility, Zichen had to think about another thing. After releasing his strong perception, Zichen's expression changed. His original imagination had become a real guess. But he didn't say anything and continued to walk in a certain direction. Perhaps he would meet Cheng Ho and the others along the way. During this time, he had refined the 6 origin laws for a long time, so he didn't know how they were doing. And the monk and the others, he didn't know how they were doing in the Gaduin kingdom. Suddenly, the road ahead was blocked. It was a Gashan demon, standing in the path that the two of them had to pass. His gaze swept across the two of them and paused for a moment on Xiangling. A strange light flashed in his eyes. "Get lost, this path won't work." As he spoke, he released his demonic aura, forming a kind of pressure. The demon suddenly pointed at Zichen. "You get lost, but leave this woman." At this time, Zichen's perception had already extended, spreading into the distance and probing the situation there. His expression did not change, and his speed did not decrease. Seeing that Zichen did not stop, Xiangling followed him. "Courting death!" The evil demon roared and charged forward. Zichen struck out with his palm. Countless rules descended from the sky and converged into the palm print. With a loud boom, the demon flew backwards. The abyss devil who landed 100 feet away couldn't help but cry out in alarm, "A Tao Protector?" Zichen glanced at him and replied, "Get lost." The demon got up and wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth, then quickly ran into the depths. Xiangling was very surprised. She did not expect Zichen to have grown to such a level. He was able to injure the demon with a single palm strike. "What's the situation up ahead?" Xiangling asked. The space up ahead was constantly surging, and her perception was affected. Zichen said, "For demons are working together to deal with that big guy. But from the looks of it, they are unable to do anything to it." Suddenly, Zichen's expression changed. Not far away, Zichen saw Cheng Ho's group. At this moment, they were working together to defend against the attack of one of the demons. Adding the one who had escaped earlier, the number of demons was 6. "I'll go first." Zichen could not wait and immediately increased his speed. Xiangling followed closely behind, but after a few breaths, she lost track of Zichen. Fortunately, Zichen's aura was still there, allowing her to follow her perception and move forward. Gum, it's not good. A Tao protector has come. The slightly injured demon quickly came to the battlefield, ignoring the little spiders around him and shouting at another demon. Come on, let's go. A Tao protector? Gum turned his head, somewhat puzzled. Aren't Tao protectors the leader? Why are you so flustered? Yes, but that guy is extremely strange. He injured me with just one move. His battle strength is extraordinarily strong. Thinking back to the previous confrontation, the demon's eyes were still filled with shock. At this moment, a strong wind blew. Zi-chan was quickly approaching, but he did not attack the demons. Instead, he went in another direction. Not good, it's Gar's direction. The injured demon cried out in alarm. Gam looked at the unshakable giant spider, then looked in the direction Zi-chan had left. He gritted his teeth. Let's go and take a look first. As they approached, they could hear the sounds of battle. When they arrived, the demon called Gar was already lying in a pool of blood. His injuries were not light. The 5 demons immediately approached and then lined up. 4 of them coldly looked at Zi-chan. Gam went to check Gar's injuries. They were very heavy, but not life-threatening. This was the first time Zi-chan had truly fought a demon. He had a new understanding of this realm. The other party was really strong in all aspects. Otherwise, with Zi-chan's strength, he would have killed him long ago. Heal your injuries first. Gam stood up, looked at Zi-chan, and said coldly, A Tao protector? Zi-chan nodded, but his eyes were sizing up Gam. He was looking for the other party's weakness. Chun-ho and the others stood behind Zi-chan with lingering fear. If not for that Gam demon wanting to keep the 2 ladies alive, they would not have been able to hold on until now, even with the spider leg weapons. A mere leader. I'd like to see what methods you have. Gam waved his hand, and a demon immediately rushed forward. A powerful aura immediately surged around him. Zi-chan punched out, and the rules were mobilized by him, converging with his own strength. Boom! The demon was sent flying. Seeing this, Gam's expression changed. Sure enough, he had some methods. He asked, how was it? The demon landed on the ground. After stabilizing himself, he said, Your attack wasn't weak, but if you want to kill me, you'll need to punch me 10,000 times. Gam laughed. Looks like it's just a trick of the rules. Well, let's kill him first, then we'll deal with that big spider. As he spoke, Gam and the other demons moved forward, clearly intending to kill Zi-chan by force. Even if you're a Tao protector, even if you have the protection of the rules, if we join forces, we can still break your rules. Gam said coldly, For so many years, we weren't afraid of Tao protectors, but rather looked down on their realm. The difference between a leader and a demon is not something you can imagine. Chun-ho and the others had already retreated, trying not to cause trouble for Zi-chan. Die. A Gam demon approached and slammed his palm toward Zi-chan's head. His aura was vast and mighty, and the surrounding space seemed to distort. At that moment, a light flashed in front of Zi-chan. Chapter 47:21. That flickering light was the short sword that Zi-chan had refined many times. He did not use it in the previous battle, but only used his own strength to test the combat power of the demons. Now that the demons had chosen to join forces, Zi-chan certainly would not hold back. The powerful attack of the demons collapsed in front of him, and when the others approached, the demon's body fell to the side. Gam sensed that his companion's vitality had disappeared, and his expression changed greatly. He subconsciously stopped. The other 3 were the same, and their faces were filled with disbelief. A demon died, just like that. Zi-chan looked at them and smiled. The light in front of him flashed again, and the short sword drew an arc and flew into the distance, piercing through the body of the heavily injured demon behind them. He was already injured, so naturally he could not block this attack. He did not even know what had happened before he died under the short sword. When the other four saw this, they did not dare to say anything more and turned to run. The strength of this guardian was beyond imagination. Looking at the different escape routes of the four, Zichen shook his head and sighed. "Everyone, I'm afraid you won't be able to escape this time." Xiu, the light of the short sword chased forward. It was like a real lightning bolt, piercing through the bodies of the demons one after another. All the demons that met the short sword died. Sensing that his companions had fallen one after another behind him, Gom's heart was filled with fear. He had never thought that a guardian of the head realm would have such a powerful and terrifying killing power. He, who had never felt the danger of death, felt that his life was beginning to fade away. Suddenly, he saw a woman walking in front of him. The woman was wearing a white dress and was extremely beautiful. If he was free, he would definitely force her to stay and have a good time with her. But now that his life was in danger, how could he have the mood to do that? Get lost! Seeing that the woman in the white dress did not dodge, he roared angrily, and then mobilized the power of the demons all over his body. He was about to force his way through. The woman in front of him still did not dodge, but chose to block him. One after another, the power of the rules descended from the sky, forming a protective barrier in front of her. Seeing this scene, Gom could not get angry even if he wanted to, because another guardian had come. Boom! He collided with Shanling. Shanling's nomological defense was broken, and her body was sent flying. Gom was also obstructed because of this, and his body suddenly came to a halt. Before he could curse his opponent, the light of the short sword quickly came from behind and swept past his body. In an instant, he felt as if a devouring hole had appeared around his body and was rapidly draining his life force. His body staggered forward a few steps, and then he fell head first onto the ground. His life force was gone. Shanling stood up from a distance, just in time to see the short sword turn into a ray of light and fly into the distance. A demon died just like that. She glanced at Gom's corpse before heading towards Zichen. The change in the battle caught Cheng Ho and the others off guard. They originally thought that it would be an extremely difficult battle, but they didn't expect it to end in such a short time. It seemed that Zichen had improved a lot in such a short time. They just didn't know what level he would reach after leaving this place. "Why are you guys here?" Zichen walked forward, sizing up the demon corpses on the ground. Cheng Ho knew that this question was directed at them. He explained, "We discovered that when we followed that big spider, we would often encounter some residual energy liquid. So we carefully followed it, and we also gained some benefits along the way. But we didn't expect that those demons would also notice that big guy, so we were discovered." Zichen crouched down and said, "So you're saying that the big spider knows where the opportunity is?" Cheng Ho said, "We're not sure yet because we tried to search in front of the spider, but we didn't find anything. But after following the spider, we found some energy liquid." Zichen turned around. "You're saying that the energy liquid was created by the spider itself?" "That's our guess, but we can't confirm it yet." Cheng Ho walked forward. "They're all dead. What are you looking at?" Zichen was sizing up the demon corpses, looking very carefully. Who knew what he was looking at? "They're demons, second only to the king in this world. If I didn't have a special weapon, killing them today would have been wishful thinking." Zichen said, "Maybe we'll be able to get something good from them." As he spoke, Zichen opened his mouth and blew out. Countless laws appeared once more, landing on the dead demon's body. Then the demon's body began to glow. After the light of the laws disappeared, everyone saw that the demon had disappeared, leaving behind only a white, jade-like skeleton. Everyone was stunned, not understanding what this meant. So there really is a problem. Zichen stood up. "The laws can't destroy the skeleton. Sure enough, after reaching the demon realm, the body will change. Why don't you try and see if you can break it?" Cheng Ho raised his spider leg weapon and slashed forward. Sparks flew, but not a single rib was broken. It's that sturdy? Chang Ho was shocked. During the battle earlier, Zi Qin had already sensed that something was amiss. No matter how he injured the demon, he couldn't break its bones. In terms of control over power, the demon's body was terrifyingly strong. If it weren't for the fact that the dagger was sharp enough, Zi Qin wouldn't have been able to kill it. Perhaps others wouldn't have been able to sense anything after the demon died. But Zi Qin could use the laws of heaven and earth to sense that something was different about the demon's body. It was like an intense light was being blocked by something. Although he couldn't see it clearly, he could sense its existence. Thus, Zi Qin tried to use the laws to separate the demon's body. As a result, the demon's body returned to heaven and earth, but the bones remained, and they were very sturdy. Without the cover of the body, infinite light bloomed, and it was extremely eye-catching to the protectors. Xiangling walked over. When she saw this scene, she was also very surprised. What did you sense? Zi Qin looked up at Xiangling. Xiangling pointed at the bones and said, "This thing is useful to us. I don't mean to us, but to our weapons." Yes, this was a material for refining weapons. Even the Tao Protector's weapon of law was attracted by the sight of these demon bones. Put it away. Once we bring it back, we should be able to refine an exalted weapon. Zi Qin stood up and said, Chapter 47:22. Zi Qin stepped forward and used the power of laws to disintegrate the demons. All the bones were left behind, as though they had been refined countless times. The bones exuded a jade-like luster. Chang Ho and the others looked at the sparkling jade-like bones and seemed to understand the reason why they couldn't advance to the demon realm. Xiangling turned back and brought Gom's bones back. As a guardian, she also had the same means as Zi Qin. The bones contained a considerable amount of power, but they needed to be tempered bit by bit with the power of laws before they could be integrated into weapons and increase the power of weapons. Currently, only guardians could do this. Chang Ho and the others could only use the bones as ready-made weapons at best. Chang Ho, who was holding a skeleton, looked at Zi Qin and said, "Why don't we withdraw now?" Perhaps they couldn't advance to the sacred venerate level after coming to this world. But as long as they brought all the bones back, they could still refine some weapons in the future. Although they couldn't do anything to the bones in this world, as long as they returned to the Saint Spirit realm, they would be powerful, sacred venerates. Once Zi Qin returned, he would be beaten back to his original form and become a 9-star sacred spirit. No hurry. Since we're here, let's go take a look at that big spider. Maybe we'll find something unexpected. Zi Qin, who was speaking, glanced in a certain direction. Did you find something? Xiangling asked. Zi Qin shook his head and didn't say much. At this moment, the big spider had retreated, but it was still in Zi Qin's perception, so it was easy to find it. Under Zi Qin's lead, the group went in the direction of the big spider. As they moved forward, they gradually found small spiders, which meant that they were in the right direction. There was no need for Zi Qin to do anything. Xiangling alone could block these small spiders outside. As they moved forward, Chang Ho told them about some of the clues they had found. Zi Qin listened quietly. Compared to the past, where they had to follow carefully, this time it was much easier with Zi Qin and Xiangling as their protectors. During this time, Zi Qin constantly sensed the mountain-like creature, but he didn't find anything special. Of course, the fact that the spider leg that he had cut off had grown back again didn't count. After following them for a while, Zi Qin suddenly sped up and left everyone behind. He quickly approached, his body borrowing force in midair. The mountainous spider turned around, and nearly 100 sword cheese appeared on its back, whistling towards Zi Qin. Last time, Zi Qin had to dodge these attacks, but this time he didn't need to do so. The rules combined with his own power to form a protective barrier in front of him, blocking all the sword chi outside. Zi-chan landed on the spider's back as if he was standing on a mountain peak. Spider webs appeared and enveloped Zi-chan. However, as soon as they came into contact with Zi-chan's body, they were cut off by the rules. Then venom splashed on his body, but it was still blocked by the rules. The spider used many methods, but it was no longer able to do anything to Zi-chan. Zi-chan punched, and the rules on the fist light circulated again, landing on the spider's body. A few cracks immediately appeared on its hard, armor-like body. The spider was in pain, and its body began to shake, trying to shake off Zi-chan. Zi-chan punched again, and a hole appeared on the spider's body, with dark green blood gushing out. The spider's body seemed to be about to fall, but Zi-chan used his feet as a stepping stone and landed in the air. He looked at the spider. The spider seemed to have sensed the threat of death, and had turned to run. Zi-chan stretched out his hand, and a light lit up in his palm, and a short sword appeared. Countless small spiders swarmed over, trying to fight for a chance of survival for the spider. Swoosh! Cold light shot out, and the short sword turned into a beam of light and sank into the spider's body. The spider let out a shrill scream, and its mountain-like body collapsed. The short sword flew back and disappeared beside Zi-chan. The bodies of the other small spiders immediately collapsed, like a bubble that had exploded. Footsteps sounded from behind, and Chung-ho and the others quickly came over and saw the scene. The spider was dead, but no opportunity appeared. However, this mountain-like spider corpse was also an extremely rare material. The spider legs were ready-made weapons, and its huge body could be refined a second time. Shanling also came forward and sized up the spider. This was the first time she had seen such a huge spider. Zi-chan turned his head and shrugged. It seems that there's no benefit to killing it. It's better to follow it slowly. Maybe we can discover its secret. Chung-ho and the others came closer. Since the spider was dead, there was no need to dwell on it. However, these spider legs could be used. After all, they were ready-made weapons. At this moment, Shanling looked back at Zi-chan. "Can't you sense it?" "Sense what?" Zi-chan asked in confusion. Shanling pointed at the huge spider. "Can't you sense the abnormality inside?" "There's an abnormality inside." Zi-chan was very puzzled. He released his perception, but he still couldn't sense anything. Shanling nodded with certainty. "It's inside its body. I'll go take a look." At this moment, the white-furred mouse came over and took the initiative. "Let me go. Its venom is extraordinary. It's better to be careful." Zi-chan walked forward and came in front of the huge spider. He found that its mouth was open, and it could easily accommodate a person. However, the perception he released was blocked by a mysterious energy, so Zi-chan couldn't detect what was inside. After entering the spider's mouth, Zi-chan smelled a pungent smell. This was the spider's venom. He walked forward until he came to the spider's body and saw an open door. There's really something inside. The door was open and there was light. He didn't know what was inside. Zi-chan carefully stepped forward. There was no danger during this period, but after approaching, Zi-chan perceived a familiar energy aura from the light of the door. Perhaps he discovered the secret of the big spider's ability to find the energy liquid. After a little hesitation, Zi-chan walked in and saw a huge golden lake. The whole lake was filled with countless energy liquid. The strong aura made Zi-chan feel attracted. This was the spider's biggest secret and also the biggest opportunity. Seeing the opportunity here, Zi-chan was confident that he could advance to the demon realm. However, before refining this energy, he still had to do something. After walking out of the spider's mouth, everyone came forward and asked Zi-chan what he found. In front of Zi-chan, there was a light flickering. It was a short sword. Chapter 47:23. The appearance of the dagger made everyone stunned and puzzled. Who was he trying to kill? Whoosh! In the next moment, the dagger disappeared without a trace. Then, Zi-Chen's figure disappeared. Everyone looked at Xiangling. As a guardian, she should know what Zi-Chen was trying to do. Xiangling shook her head. She didn't know what Zi-Chen was trying to do. Behind a big tree, a Gashan evil demon was clutching his chest. Blood kept flowing out from his chest. He clutched his chest and leaned against the tree. He looked at Zi-Chen in disbelief. You already knew? Last time, you left so decisively. I thought you were smart. I didn't expect you to be a fool in the end. Zi-Chen smiled coldly. The dagger disappeared beside him. Gaduin asked you to come, right? Unfortunately, you can't send the news back. After Zi-Chen refined the origin of the 6 laws, his perception was strengthened again. Naturally, he found the Gashan evil demon following them. He didn't kill him along the way, but let him follow them. But now they found a great opportunity. Naturally, he couldn't let him continue to follow them. If he guessed correctly, he should be Gaduin King's subordinate, the last of the 3 evil demons. After returning with the skeleton, everyone was extremely shocked. Did he just come back from killing a demon? Zi-Chen explained, the one we met last time has been following us. Xiangling's expression changed. She said with some worry, Doesn't that mean that someone is watching us? Maybe. But as long as we're fast enough, we don't have to worry about anything. Zi-Chen looked ahead and said, Everyone, follow me in. What's inside? Xiangling asked curiously. Good stuff. Everyone entered the spider's mouth, one after another. Then they came to the door. Looking at the glowing door, everyone's face showed a touch of joy. Obviously, they all guessed what was inside. Sure enough, after everyone entered, they saw a large golden lake. Sensing the rich spiritual power in it, everyone exclaimed excitedly. This was called an opportunity. You guys go somewhere else. I'll stay here. Earlier, Zi-Chen had already released his perception and found no danger. Everyone walked in different directions. Zi-Chen sat cross-legged on the ground. If anything unusual happened, he would be able to react in time. Zi-Chen, who was sitting cross-legged, looked at the motionless Xiangling and said, Don't just stand there. Everyone has a share. As for whether you can break through or not, it depends on your luck. Xiangling nodded and sat down not far away from Zi-Chen. She was also a Dao protector, so she could do something during the mutation. When the energy entered Zi-Chen's body, the first thing that changed was his body. It was as if his bones were being reforged. This change was very obvious. After seeing the jade bones left behind by the demons, Zi-Chen was no longer surprised. If the leader wanted to advance again, he would first have to break through the shackles of his physical body. This was undoubtedly a good sign for Zi-Chen, who had refined many origin laws but had yet to break through. Just as Zi-Chen obtained an opportunity, similar opportunities appeared one after another in other places. Almost all the demons of the 18 kingdoms came to this inverted world. At the same time, the kings also came together. Compared to the demons, the kings were more powerful, so almost all the great resources were found by them. When the kings heard the news, they finally left their residence and came to the inverted world. Lei Zhenku also came. As the leader of the Holy Thunder clan, he seemed to have disappeared when he came to this world. This time, he reappeared in front of everyone. Moreover, he didn't need to fight others to get a resource to become a demon. The 18 kings all came to the inverted world to find opportunities for their own people. Among them, King Gaduin was in the most awkward position. Because almost all his subordinates were dead, the 3 great demons were all killed in battle, and the other leaders were all wiped out by Zi-Chen. Fortunately, there were still some Gaduin leaders alive. He could only give them the resources first and try to break through to become a demon as soon as possible. Because recently, a very secretive piece of news had spread. In the depths of the inverted world, a new secret had been discovered. And this secret may be related to whether everyone could leave or not. As existences in this world, whether it was the 18 kings or the most powerful king, their biggest wish was to be able to leave this world. To them, this place was like a prison. They had great power, but they didn't have the chance to show it. It could be said that they didn't even have a single person. Lady left the space where the prison pagoda was. He didn't want others to know that he was the first to come. Through his investigation, it wouldn't be long before others found this place. Whether or not this place had the coordinates and secrets to the heavens could only wait for others to find out. After Lady left, he walked towards the periphery. Along the way, he saw some powerful beasts. They all had their own opportunities. Unfortunately, in this world, Lady didn't need any opportunities to grow. He didn't know why it was like this. A ray of light appeared in front of the big spider's corpse. Gudwin looked at the big spider, and his eyes gradually turned cold. It should be here. He looked ahead, at the big mouth of the dead spider. At this moment, his perception had already fallen on the spider's body. He saw the marks left by Zi Chen's fist on the spider's body. At the same time, he also saw the fatal wound on the spider. It was left by that weapon. It seems that he is inside. Gudwin King walked forward. Obviously, he knew that there was another world in the spider's body. Suddenly, his expression changed, and his figure immediately retreated. A long spear fell from the sky and landed where he was standing before. The tip of the spear sank into the ground. The light body trembled violently, stirring up ripples. Gudwin King frowned slightly. At the same time, he sensed all around but didn't find anything. Was there an existence in the dark that even he couldn't sense? Was this a warning from the other party? Gudwin King shook his head and didn't agree with this possibility. Because he was a king. Was there an existence here that he couldn't fight against? Unless it was a king. But if it was a king, there was no need to do this. Deliberately mystifying. He snorted and walked forward again. But this time, another long spear appeared. Without any warning, without any trajectory to follow, it fell from the sky and came in front of Gudwin King. Is it really a king? Gudwin King's eyes flashed. This time he was a lot more careful. He retreated and decided to ignore Zichen for the time being. Chapter 47:24. Even after Gudwin King left, no one else appeared. Zichen, who was in the Golden Lake, didn't know that a crisis had just befallen this place. While refining the Golden Lake, everyone's body was circulating with golden light. The origin of this liquid was unknown, but its effect was great. After the energy entered the body, it automatically strengthened the body. Bones, blood, and skin were all strengthened. Zichen could clearly feel the changes in his body. During this time, he could even mobilize a part of the laws to speed up the refining process. Among these people, the ones who felt it the most were the ancient sacred venerables. When they were in the saint spirit realm, their realm and power had reached a limit. There were no more resources in the world that could help them grow. Even though they had experienced life and death for many years, their cultivation hadn't improved at all. However, the liquid in the Golden Lake could strengthen their bodies. This was a great opportunity for ancient sacred venerables who couldn't make any progress. They could clearly sense the existence of the Devil Realm. Once they advanced to the Devil Realm here, they would definitely make progress again when they returned to the Saint Spirit Realm. This was amazing. Beams of light shot out from his body one after another, stirring up ripples on the surface of the lake. Zhong Hao, who had a strong body, was like a fish in water when he came here. He was the one who had improved the fastest. As his body continued to strengthen, he finally broke through the bottleneck of the Devil Realm. As a shackle was broken, the surrounding lake water seemed to boil, constantly gathering in Chung Ho's body. A tyrannical aura that belonged to the Devil Realm was released from Chung Ho's body. This aura disturbed the surrounding space, making everyone unable to cultivate in peace. One by one, they opened their eyes. At this moment, Chang Ho was completely shrouded in golden light, like an ancient god of war. He was bathed in the golden light. The unique energy of the golden lake swirled into his body. Han Nu's expression changed. Beside her, Ning Hua was also very surprised. Then, an excited smile appeared on his face. When he looked at the other ancient, sacred venerables again, they all had the same excited expression. However, Li Haoqing and the others were excited. Because they were not ancient sovereigns, they didn't know what Chang Ho's breakthrough meant. This meant that Chang Ho had broken the rules of the saint spirit realm and even the god realm and the devil realm, becoming an existence that surpassed the sacred venerables. It also meant that in this era he had surpassed the previous era. Whether it was the famous holy sage Ziqin or Lei Yuqian who led his men into the devil realm, Chang Ho had completely surpassed them. In other words, Zhong Hao, who had become a demon, had truly become an ancient holy master, the ancient holy venerate realm. Unfortunately, this was a different world. There were many demons here. Hence, the heavens and earth did not respond to Zhong Hao's breakthrough. The turbulent aura disappeared, and the golden light on Chang Ho's body gradually receded. He opened his eyes. The oppressive feeling in the surroundings dispersed. Zhong Hao stood up and found that everyone was looking at him. "How is it? How do you feel?" Ning Hua asked anxiously. Chang Ho sensed his body's condition and said, "My body has completely transformed, and it is no longer in the same realm as before. This liquid is very unusual, and I don't think there is such a thing in the saint spirit realm. Only in this different world would there be such a thing." Ning Hua asked again, "So, after returning, you have the confidence to break through and reach another height?" Chang Ho said, "I have already broken through, so there is no need to wait until we return." Only Ning Hua and the others could understand Chang Ho's meaning, and they all became excited. "You all continue to refine. I will go first." Chang Ho walked out. "Don't you need to consolidate your realm?" Han Nu asked. Chang Ho, who thought that he was being cared for, smiled and said, "No, if I consolidate my realm, you may not be able to break through. Although this energy is very unusual, the demon realm is also unusual, and the consumption is very high." In addition to Chang Ho, there were more than a dozen people here, including the white-furred rat and the 4 beasts. If all of them broke through to the demon realm, the consumption was indeed high. Chang Ho, who had experience, felt that it was just enough. Therefore, he did not want to waste any more energy. Chang Ho walked out, and at the entrance of the golden door of light, he saw the demon bones placed there. These were good things. He waved his hand, and these demon bones all disappeared. This was the ability he obtained after becoming a demon. He could open up a demon space in this world, and these things could be stored in this space. After that, Chang Ho left the spider's body and walked outside. The once indestructible spider leg had now become a convenient weapon. Of course, after returning, it would be more suitable for him. All kinds of resources similar to the golden lake appeared. No one knew where these resources came from or how they appeared, but after refining these resources, everyone had improved by quite a bit. Many of them had even advanced to the demon realm. Relatively speaking, it was easier for the leaders of the alternate world to become demons, but it was much more difficult for the humans here, and they also consumed more energy. Chang Ho was the first to break through, but he was not the last. Because everyone had different opportunities, some of the humans here had also broken through. This inverted world was very big, and the opportunities were also very widely distributed. Among them, many people were walking towards the inverted world. After all, there were not many opportunities in the alternate world, so they might as well try their luck in this inverted world. And Mo Jingtian and the others were one of them. In the group he led, several people had broken through to the leader realm. At the same time, because of the lack of resources, it was impossible to let everyone break through. Therefore, they came to the inverted world. Among these people, Emoihan was also one of the lucky few. He had also broken through to the leader realm, but his wife Emoian had not. As they walked forward, they were very tactful and did not mention Zichen's name. Speaking of which, the reason why some of them were able to break through was because Zichen had killed all the leaders in that area, which gave them the ability to kill other Yen realm cultivators. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to break through. Of course, they did not appreciate this. At the same time, because Zichen's name was too heavy, not to mention taking the initiative to kill Zichen, everyone was even praying in their hearts that they would not meet Zichen. Under such circumstances, meeting Zichen would be equivalent to death. Zichen and the others did not meet, and it would be very difficult for them to meet. However, on the way forward, they met Monk and the others. Both parties met when they were about to reach the entrance of the inverted world. The two groups looked at each other from afar, and both were stunned. Those people are Zichen's friends. They are with Zichen. Mo Yen Dan's was said in a low voice. Both parties had stopped. In terms of numbers, the demon race had the absolute advantage. As for their strength, it was uncertain. Mo Jingtian naturally knew those people. Back then, Zichen was willing to die for them. Now that they met, he was a little hesitant. He did not know if he should fight. At this moment, Emoihan took a few steps forward and said with a smile, "You guys are Zichen's friends, right? What a coincidence. We have some connections with Zichen. You guys are going to the inverted world, right? We're going there as well. Why don't we travel together?" Monk's lips curled into a cold smile. "If you guys have the guts, I don't mind everyone going together." Naturally, he knew that these people were Zichen's enemies. If there was a chance, it would be good to kill them here. "Forget it. Business is more important," Su Mengyao suddenly said. Of course, these demon race would not travel with them. Even Su Mengyao could see that they were lacking in confidence. However, she was too lazy to care. If Zichen wanted to kill them, it should be very easy. However, after becoming a Tao protector, Zichen only killed the leaders of the alternate world and did not pursue them. Su Mengyao did not want to do anything unnecessary. If these people really deserved to die after meeting Zichen in the inverted world, Zichen would naturally make a move. After entering the black entrance and seeing the inverted world, everyone's face was filled with surprise. Such a world was really rare. Not long after, they saw the tree vine. Thus, one by one, they entered the inverted world with the help of the tree vine. After arriving in this world, everyone placed their hopes on Su Mengyao, because only she had a way to find Zichen. Su Mengyao did not disappoint them. Soon, she pointed out the direction of Zichen. It was not because her Tao of divination had improved, but because she sensed her master's aura. After divining, it became much easier. Perhaps because the dangers had been cleared by the people who came first, they did not encounter any dangers along the way. The group smoothly arrived at the huge spider's corpse. They saw Cheng Ho. Other than Cheng Ho, Han Nu and Ning Hua were also there. After such a long time, they had all broken through and became the demons of this world. While Su Mengyao and Han Nu were chatting, the monk looked at the huge spider in shock. He knocked on its body, and when he heard the feedback, his eyes widened. "This thing is so strong. If you remove a piece of it and use it as armor, won't you be invincible?" "I'm not sure if it can be used as armor, but this can be used as a weapon." Cheng Ho came forward and handed the monk a spider leg. When they were still together, the monk was always asking for a weapon. During that time, he urged Zichen many times. The monk took the spider leg curiously. He held it with both hands and waved it a few times. Then his eyes lit up. Back then, Cheng Ho's vision was very high, but when he saw the spider leg, he was also filled with joy. Needless to say, the monk. Sure enough, the monk was very satisfied with the spider leg. He almost couldn't put down. However, before Cheng Ho could say thank you, the monk poked his head over and asked, "I say, there should be more of this spider leg, right? I'm good at using weapons with both hands. Give me another one." Chung-Ho's smile froze. At this time in the Golden Lake, Zi-Chen, who was cultivating, finally made some progress. Countless golden energy gathered towards him. A demonic aura erupted from his body. Chapter 47:25. Chung-Ho looked at the monk. He had a new understanding of this guy's greed. The monk chuckled. I say, big brother Chung-Ho, if my guess is correct, the spider should have 8 legs, right? I'm quite familiar with two-handed weapons. If I have one more, my battle prowess will increase infinitely. Chung-Ho laughed mockingly. Then guess how many legs this spider has. If you guess right, I'll give you 2 more. The monk's eyes lit up. 8, of course it's 8, he said excitedly. Big brother Chung-Ho is the best. Isn't this obvious? But looking at Chung-Ho's mocking smile, the monk said, No, 7, 6 is also fine. Chung-Ho stood up and patted the dust off his body. Wrong guess. It's 9. How can it be 9? Big brother Chung-Ho, you're not being honest, the monk said unwillingly. You don't believe me? Then go ask Zi-Chen. You'll understand. Chung-Ho smiled contentedly. At this moment in the Golden Lake, everyone stopped cultivating once more and looked in front of them. This time, the change was brought about by Zi-Chen. Boundless energy entered his body, transforming it. The others who had not yet broken through had smiles on their faces. In this team, Zi-Chen was undoubtedly the strongest. His breakthrough proved that the overall battle prowess of the team had increased. The most excited of all was Xiangling. Zi-Chen's breakthrough proved that she had made the right choice. Of the 18 guardians, she was the one who had survived in the end. It could be said that after seeing Zi-Chen break through, she was even more excited than when she broke through. The Golden Lake rippled. Its surface had shrunk by about 1/3, but there were still many people who had not broken through. The commotion caused by Zi-Chen's breakthrough did not last long, and soon it came to a stop. After the golden light around his body faded away, everyone began to congratulate him. Li Haoqing looked at Zi-Chen with eyes full of gratification. This descendant of the Holy Thunder Clan had finally surpassed them and reached a new height. Zi-Chen looked at everyone. Next, we'll be waiting for your good news. Li Haoqing shook his head and laughed bitterly. I'm afraid it will be very difficult for us to break through to the fiend realm. The others also nodded, deeply moved. Once a person became a demon, they would reach a whole new level after leaving this place. In fact, Li Haoqing and the others had already made considerable progress after coming here. After he left, he would definitely become an ancient holy venerable. However, if he wanted to take another step forward, the difficulty would not be small, because Chung-Ho and the others had already become ancient sacred sovereigns. Breaking through was so easy. As for them, they still needed an extremely long time to temper their bones. Regardless of whether or not everyone could break through, Zi-Chen could not continue to occupy the energy here. After breaking through, he took the initiative to leave. Xiangling also wanted to leave, but she was stopped by Zi-Chen. He let Xiangling continue to refine the energy. It would be best if she could break through. After all, Xiangling was a Tao protector. In this place, her battle strength was extremely strong. Walking along the passage, Zi-Chen saw many familiar faces. He could not help but smile. However, before he could greet everyone, Monk ran over and asked, Zi-Chen, how many legs do you think this big spider has? Obviously, he was still brooding over the previous problem of missing out on 2 weapons. Zi-Chen looked at the weapon in Monk's hand, then glanced at Chung-Ho. He immediately understood the origin of this question, so he said, 9. How is that possible? How can a spider have 9 legs? The monk said unwillingly, I once chopped off one, and then that leg grew back. Of course it has 9 legs. A chopped off leg can grow back. This is the inverted world. What can't happen here? This time, Tyrant completely lost his temper. For an existence with his character, The 2 weapons that he didn't get today were considered to be a huge loss. Heartache was inevitable. Chang Ho and Ning Hua both nodded at Ziqin, congratulating him. Frost Maiden was talking with Su Mengyao and the others. Ziqin walked in their direction. Ziqin, Big Brother Chang Ho said there were opportunities inside, right? Do you want to let us take a look? Monk walked over. He was no longer depressed because he had a new goal. Ziqin glanced at the monk. You're really too greedy. Just stay here and be good. There were not many resources inside. Otherwise, these demons would not have come out right after breaking through. Therefore, under such circumstances, it was more or less inexcusable to bring all of them in. Moreover, Ziqin actually had other plans in his heart. Especially after seeing everyone, he had a plan. He asked about everyone's cultivation situation. It seemed that it was not bad. More than half of them had reached the head realm. Su Mengyao told him about the encounter at the entrance. Ziqin shook his head indifferently and said let them be. Obviously, he did not intend to deal with those demons for the time being. Ziqin looked at the women talking and laughing. He could not interrupt them, so he could only walk aside and continue with the next task. He took out a piece of white jade bone and mobilized the law to fall on it. As the law invaded, the white jade bone gradually dissipated in midair. As a Tao protector, he certainly had the ability to hide things. However, after becoming a demon, he had an additional spatial ability, so he did not have to deliberately hide. What remained of the jade bone was the purest part of the essence, shining with a bright light. The dagger appeared on its own and revolved around Ziqin. Once the bone liquid condensed, it would float in front of Ziqin and absorb that drop of bone liquid. Whether it was Ziqin using the law to refine it or the dagger absorbing it, it was an extremely long process. It could not be rushed at all. After Monk asked about the situation and learned that this thing was useless to him, he felt bored. He raised the spider leg and danced around, familiarizing himself with it while increasing his power. Seemingly bored, he ran to the huge spider's corpse and used the spider leg to chop the spider's corpse over and over again. A sonorous sound broke out. Ziqin, who was refining the bone liquid, heard these sounds and felt a little irritated. At this moment, Monk noticed the wounds on the spider's body. Other than the fatal parts that were pierced by sharp blades, there were also holes that were punched through by fists. He carried the spider leg on his shoulder and ran back. He came in front of Ziqin and asked about the situation at that time. After Ziqin admitted that he was the one who killed the big spider when he was in the leader's realm, Tyrant couldn't help but widen his eyes. When you were in the leader realm, you could already kill such a powerful existence. Now that you've advanced to the fiend realm, wouldn't you be considered invincible? Don't be modest. You are definitely invincible. Next, you can help us find some more big spiders. This way, we can get more spider legs. Ziqin was startled. He did not expect this to be Monk's way of thinking. Actually, I can't be called invincible. Chapter 47:26. This voice came very suddenly, breaking the harmonious atmosphere here. Everyone turned to look into the distance. Before they could see who it was, their expressions changed. Because this voice was very familiar. Almost everyone present had heard it before. They had heard it a long time ago. Back then, this voice had been accompanied by a dazzling flash of blade light. The owner of the flash of blade light did not appear. Instead, it followed a small bird into the distance. Ziqin said that the bird was called Main. This time, the owner of the flash of blade light appeared. His identity had been revealed long ago. A very easygoing man wearing a very decent robe was walking towards them. King Geduin. Chang Ho stared at the approaching man. His expression changed. The man waved warmly at Frost Lady and the others, as if he was greeting friends. Just call me Geduin. That's too distant. At this time, no one called Geduin by his name. Almost everyone present was meeting this king for the first time. Moreover, Zichen had killed many of Gaduin's subordinates in his territory. No need to be so formal. Let's all sit down and chat. Gaduin's smile did not fade. You're a king. What are you doing here? Zichen said, Of course I'm here to see you. After all, you're the Tao protector of the Gaduin kingdom. Although you didn't bow when you saw me, which was very rude, I won't be petty and blame you for it. Gaduin stopped in front of Zichen. I want to correct what you said earlier. Although you've become a demon, it doesn't mean you're invincible. He pointed at himself and said, After all, there's still me, the king in name, above you. Don't you think so? As soon as he finished speaking, Gaduin released his aura. The moment this aura appeared, everyone felt an immense pressure. Even the monks and the other leaders felt as if they had stopped breathing. Cheng Ho and the others felt as if they were facing a great enemy. However, they did not feel fear. Zichen suddenly fell down with a grunt. He clutched his chest, his face extremely pale. The laws that had been circulating around his body stopped. What are you doing? Cheng Ho took a step forward, and the demonic aura around him began to circulate. Frost Chi appeared from the other side, and Frost Maiden also walked out. Ning Hua and the others stepped forward and stared at Gaduin King indifferently. Don't mind. I'm just reminding Zichen that he's not invincible. Gaduin immediately retracted his aura, then waved his hand and said, After all, I created the Tao protectors. No matter how powerful they become in the end, they are still my Tao protectors. Don't you agree, Zichen? As the aura receded, the pressure on everyone was relieved. Zichen also returned to normal. His face was still pale, and cold sweat kept dripping from his forehead. These are your friends, and of course they're my friends as well. You don't have to be so vigilant. I won't hurt you. Zichen, do you want to step aside and talk to me? Gaduin said with a smile. Okay. Zichen nodded. Everyone looked at Zichen nervously. Just by looking at the means displayed by Gaduin Wang, it was obvious that Zichen was suppressed to the point where he couldn't fight back. If the two of them left like this, Zichen would definitely suffer. Don't worry. Zichen gave everyone a comforting look. At this moment, his complexion had returned to normal. Gaduin walked in front, humming a little song that he had heard from somewhere. He looked very uneasy and proud. Zichen followed behind Gaduin. His expression didn't change much. You're quite skilled. Not only did you kill the 2 Tao protectors I've carefully cultivated, but you also killed the other Tao protectors. Gaduin turned back and laughed. But that's not important. You don't have to be nervous. This time, I came here to show you the way. What way? Zichen asked. In this strange world, there are only 2 Tao protectors left. I'm sure you know who they are. Gaduin said, I came here to tell you that no matter what method you use, you have to kill the last 2 Tao protectors and refine their origin of laws. At that time, the laws of this strange world will become one, and you'll have the qualifications to compete for the throne. I'm going to leave sooner or later, Zichen said coolly. It doesn't matter if I'm king or not. I knew and guessed you would say that. So I called you here to tell you that if you don't do as I say, your life will be in danger. Because I'll kill you. If you do as I say, there's a great chance you'll be able to get us out of here. I, Gaduin, will owe you a favor. What if I become king and attack you first? Zichen asked. That's not a funny joke, Gaduin said. If you really want to kill me, you can do it now. If you can't, then don't even mention becoming king. Even if you become a revered king, you still won't be able to kill me. Seeing that Zichen was silent, Gaduin said, You won't lose out in this deal. A favor from a king is very valuable, and your life is on the line as well. That sounds like a good idea. Do you want me to think about it? Zichen looked at Gaduin. Don't think about it. Think about it carefully, because that's the only path you can take. If you agree to my request, you're destined for a glorious future. If you don't, then you'll die. Gaduin said confidently, So, even after you think about it, you have to agree. Chen rubbed his chin. If that's the case, then I have no choice but to agree. I'll wait for your good news. Gudwin laughed, then turned around and suddenly froze. At some point, a person had appeared next to the tree. His back was against the tree, his arms crossed in front of his chest, and he was looking in their direction. Gudwin's expression flickered. He had no idea when this person had arrived. The person had also seen Gudwin, but had no intention of greeting him. Gudwin walked forward, his perception constantly focused on the person. Deep in thought, he began to ponder. What are you doing here? Chen asked from behind. Of course, he wasn't talking to Gudwin. I was just passing by, so I thought I'd come see you. The newcomer was none other than Lady, who had disappeared for a long time. King Gudwin left, and Lady walked over to Chen. What were you two talking about earlier? You seemed so mysterious. It's nothing, just some small talk. Chen smiled faintly. Gudwin had been walking some distance away, but his attention had been focused on them the entire time. When he heard the conversation, he let out a sigh of relief. Oh, I forgot to tell you. Everyone is heading deeper into the forest. Apparently, they've discovered an incredible pagoda. Perhaps it leads to another world. If you're interested, you can go take a look. Maybe the person you're looking for is there. Chapter 47:27. A tower that leads to the outside world. Hearing Gudwin's words, Chen's expression changed, and he vaguely had some guesses. Almost subconsciously, he looked at Lady and asked, Do you know? The pagoda of confinement is 7 floors high. Lady said, You really know. Where have you been recently? Chen's expression couldn't help but change. He knew more about Lady than Lady himself, so he guessed that Lady might be unusual. I went to the place where the pagoda of confinement is located, but I couldn't get in after many attempts. Lady said, so I came back. I wanted to tell you the news, but I didn't expect him to tell me first. Chen asked, Can it really lead to the outside world? Lady shook his head. I'm not sure, but there is a hole there, and the creatures here may be related to that place. If these creatures came from there, doesn't it mean that there really is a world beyond the sky? Chen pondered for a moment and said, Even if it's not a world beyond the sky, it must be a higher world than the Saint Spirit world. Because the creatures from that world can help the ancient sacred masters become devils. This has never happened in the history of the Saint Spirit world. I'm not sure. That's why I came back to find you. I hope you can go there and take a look. Lady said, Maybe you can find something. Gudwin, who just left, if you think he's a hindrance, I can help you deal with him. Don't pay attention to him. He's just a self-righteous guy. If Gudwin heard such a conversation, who knows how he would feel? One of the 18 kings was looked down upon by these two. Chen went back alone, and both Gudwin and Lady had left. Seeing that Chen was unscathed, the others heaved a sigh of relief. No one asked how Chen came back, and since he came back it was naturally fine. But after the threat of King Gudwin, the original harmonious atmosphere was gone, and everyone's mood was a little low. Chen smiled and said, It doesn't matter, I can still deal with Gudwin. I just wanted to verify a guess. But don't worry, there won't be a big problem. Hearing this, everyone's mood improved slightly. After hearing the news about the pagoda of confinement, Chen naturally had to make a trip there. Before that, he had to settle everyone down. After discussing with the demons, everyone agreed that Cheng Ho would go with Chen first. As for the others, it would depend on the situation. As for why it was Cheng Ho, of course, it was because he had thick skin and was more resistant to beatings. Before leaving, Chen went to the Golden Lake again. This time, he went to find Xiangling and told her where he was going. At the same time, he told Xiangling that there was no need to rush into the depths. During this time, She could take Su Mengyao and the others outside to see if there were other opportunities. When Zichen left, Shan Ling followed him out. Zichen asked in confusion, "Why did you come out?" Shan Ling seemed to have made some kind of decision and said, "You have to be careful. There may be danger." Zichen said with a smile, "I know. Goodwin came here before and showed a big trick." "King Goodwin? He didn't do anything to you?" Shan Ling's expression changed. Zichen shook his head and said, "No, he asked me to kill you and the guy we saw last time first. He said that as long as I refine the source of the two of you, I can become the 19th king, and that he still owes me a favor." Zichen didn't intend to say this before, but since Shan Ling deliberately reminded him, he said, "That's why I told you not to go to the depths for a while. Wait until everything stabilizes." Shan Ling's mood was complicated. She had made a great decision to say this, but she didn't expect Zichen to already know. Because of her keen perception, she guessed that even if she won the battle among the Tao protectors, there would still be difficulties. "Well, don't think so much. Let's go back and continue refining. After that, help them look for opportunities in the periphery. I will go to the depths to take a look." Zichen walked outside, while Shan Ling stared at Zichen's back. Zichen didn't mention this before because he didn't want her to worry. Or rather, she didn't need to worry. But now that he said it, she didn't have to worry. Because Zichen had taken precautions, it wouldn't be easy for something to happen. At the very least, she would be fine before Zichen had an accident. Moreover, Zichen was willing to let her take those friends to look for opportunities, which showed that he truly believed in her. Today, the biggest secret in her heart was revealed, which made her feel a lot better. Coming out of the big spider's mouth, Zichen first said goodbye to everyone and then walked into the depths with Cheng Ho. Everyone watched the two leave. All kinds of opportunities appeared in this inverted world. Those who obtained the opportunities basically broke through to become demons. Relatively speaking, there were more local demons. Because this was their territory, they were more familiar with the laws of heaven and earth here, so it was easier for them to break through. When the two moved forward, they didn't deliberately pursue speed. So when Zichen moved forward, he continued to use the laws to condense bone fluid to make the short sword grow. The monk said that he was invincible now, but just as his voice fell, Goodwin King appeared and refuted his invincibility in front of everyone. Although Zichen wasn't afraid of Goodwin King, the feeling of suppression was real. So in order to not face such a situation again, he needed to continue working hard. While they were moving towards the depths, others were also moving towards the depths. There were people from the 3 realms who came here, and there were also local Gashans who were at the demon level. The Gashans looked similar, so Zichen couldn't tell which force they were from. Once the two sides met, they would tacitly keep a distance. During this period, they deliberately didn't erupt into conflict. "Can you really deal with Goodwin?" Cheng Ho, who was bored along the way, suddenly asked this question. Zichen, who was condensing bone fluid, nodded. "More or less. I saw that Goodwin used the law suppression method last time. He can suppress you in almost all aspects. How do you fight against him?" A few days ago, Zichen had told Cheng Ho about his conversation with Goodwin. He knew some of it and continued. "Now it's obvious that Goodwin wants you to refine all the laws before dealing with you." Zichen said, "Yes, so as long as I don't refine the 2 protectors, Goodwin won't deal with me." "Not necessarily. According to you, Goodwin's original intention was to refine you into a protector after becoming a demon. It's only because you refined other protectors in the process that he changed his mind. So in an emergency, he will still attack you. That's possible, so I've been improving my strength all the way, hoping to have a better chance of winning when I fight against him." Zichen smiled and said, "But don't worry too much. If it doesn't work out, I'll go find Lady. As long as I lure him to Lady will probably be able to kill him with a slap." Zichen, who was talking, quietly glanced at Cheng Ho. Sure enough, Cheng Ho's expression changed. You've seen Lady? After Gudwin left, I saw Lady. He said that he couldn't enter the prison tower and wanted me to go there to take a look. Chapter 47:28. What did you say? Who set this up? Who's that guy? Zi Chen, who had been paying attention to Chang Ho's movements, clearly heard Chang Ho's soft mutterings. You're deliberately trying to get information from me, right? Chang Ho glanced at Zi Chen and said, It's meaningless. I've already told you everything I know. The rest is just speculation. Zi Chen did not say anything else, because the guy Chang Ho was talking about was very likely the holy sage Zi Chen from back then. He had taken 2 people from here back then. Now, Zi Chen was sure that they were Lei Tianshi and Lei Di. Moreover, the holy sage Zi Chen back then also had a coordinate. Then, it was very likely that the coordinate that everyone wanted was hidden in this strange world. As for what it was, Zi Chen would only know after going to the pagoda of confinement. Zi Chen, who was walking forward, suddenly had a look of surprise on his face. What's wrong? Chang Ho glanced at him. Did you think of something important? I met someone else. He's an acquaintance, Zi Chen said. Who? Chang Ho asked. Lei Jinka. He's in the other direction. Zi Chen pointed in a direction and said, apart from him, there's also a local team of demons. There are more than 20 of them. That guy was eccentric back then. The things he has done over the years are even more unfathomable, so it's best to ignore him. Chang Ho thought for a moment and said, Now that he's hooked up with the people here, it's better not to meet him. As an ancient holy sage, Chang Ho naturally knew Lei Jinka, but he did not like him. It was the same for Han Nu. In the past, every time she sent Zi Chen, she would only send him outside the Holy Thunder clan to avoid meeting Lei Jinka. Then let's go around them. Oh, it seems like we can't go around them. Some of them have discovered us and are walking towards us. In Zi Chen's perception, 3 people had left the group and were heading in his direction. Lei Jinka was one of them. It was obvious that they were here for the 2 of them. Not long after, the 2 sides met. What a coincidence, we meet again. The first to speak was the guardian. However, when Zi Chen first saw him, he was still a leader. Now he had become a demon. Zi Chen ignored the other party. Instead, he cupped his fists at Lei Jinka. Speaking of which, Lei Jinka had taken good care of him back in the Holy Thunder clan. Zi Chen, it really is you. Lei Jinka nodded at Zi Chen. Previously, I kept hearing news about you. I was wondering if you were the same person. Now, it seems like you 2 came together. Lei Jinka then looked at Chang Ho. Chang Ho, long time no see. You guys have really been elusive all these years. Chang Ho said indifferently, You don't have to be so sarcastic. Back then, you deliberately left us to die. Wasn't it because you wanted to know if we existed? Back then, when Zi Chen was being hunted down by the Lei Zheng family, the Holy Thunder clan did nothing. In the end, they were the ones who saved Zi Chen. It was also at that time that, although no one publicly announced the existence of the demon-suppressing sect, almost all the major forces knew of their existence. This was also why Chang Ho and the others no longer avoided it and took the initiative to help Zi Chen. How dare you 2 not bow when you see the honorable king? The guardian shouted coldly. Obviously, he was dissatisfied that he and the honorable king were ignored. Lei Jinka laughed and said, Zi Chen, Chang Ho, let me introduce you to. This is the honorable king, the true ruler of this alternate world. Zi Chen looked at the honorable king. Although he had already guessed the other party's identity, he was still a little surprised after hearing Lei Jinka's introduction. Chang Ho also glanced at the honorable king, but he was more curious about why Lei Jinka was with such an existence. Zi Chen, right? I've heard of you long ago, but I didn't expect to meet you here. If you don't mind, we can travel together. If you have any doubts about this world, I can also explain it to you. The honorable king smiled gently. At the same time, he smiled and nodded at Chung Ho. All right. Zi Chen didn't refuse. He nodded and asked, May I know how to address you? Lord Gran, the guardian said indifferently. His attitude toward Zi Chen was obviously not very friendly. Zi Chen, don't mind him. Gran's personality is like this. The Honorable King explained. You should have sensed his identity. He is a guardian like you, and both of you are in the same realm. When the two of you are together, it feels like fire and water are incompatible. Zi Chen smiled and said, I don't feel like fire and water are incompatible. Right now, I'm just a little curious. How were guardians created? I wonder if the Honorable King can answer my doubts? The Honorable King looked surprised. Why do you use the word created? Guardians are naturally born in this world to protect the Tao of this world. They allow all living things to grow in an orderly manner and protect the Tao. Zi Chen continued. But guardians don't have power above the king. They are always under the king's control. How can they protect all living things? What do you mean? The Honorable King was a little surprised. Zi Chen shook his head and said nothing. I'm just expressing my feelings, because all guardians seem to be the king's subordinates. I've never seen a guardian who can stand shoulder to shoulder with the king. That's because they are weak. If they have great power, they have the qualifications to become a king. The Honorable King smiled and said, Zi Chen, if you are willing to stay here, I think you can become our 19th king. Oh, I forgot to tell you. As long as you succeed in defeating a king, you can establish a kingdom. Zi Chen shook his head. I'm afraid I'll disappoint you. I don't belong here. Naturally, I have to leave. That's a pity. The Honorable King's face revealed a look of regret. During this time, Lei Jinka was chatting with Chung Ho. However, Chung Ho rarely responded. It was more or less as if he didn't want to talk to him. Zi Chen didn't talk to the Honorable King about guardians because the Honorable King wouldn't tell him the truth. I didn't expect Zi Chen to be able to make it here. Gran transmitted his voice to the Honorable King as they walked. Gaduin saw hope in Zi Chen. Perhaps he wants to take a big gamble. Gran, Zi Chen's target is very likely you, so you have to be careful. The Honorable King transmitted his voice back. I didn't want to kill him, but if he provokes me, don't blame me for not being polite. And Gaduin, I think he will be my first target. It's better to be careful. None of the kings are weak. After that, they chatted intermittently. They rarely encountered other teams along the way. It was unknown if the others had already entered the depths. The other 20 or so demons that the Honorable King brought had already left the team. Only 5 of them were moving forward at a steady pace. Chapter 47:29. This was a unique space, filled with an extremely oppressive aura. There was a gap in the sky, and a black light fell down. It was like a mist, but also like a drizzle, giving people a sense of oppression. After coming here, Zi Chen finally understood why Lei Di said the dead spider creature might have something to do with this place. Zi Chen felt a familiar aura between the two. Furthermore, entering this place had weakened his control over the rules by a bit. This was obviously not a good discovery. Lei Jinka's eyes were fixed on the gap. Perhaps this was the passage to another world. Chung Ho was also very curious about this passage. However, most of the people's attention was on the black tower below. That was the tower of confinement that Lei Di said had a total of 7 floors. He did not open it, nor did he go in. There were many people standing under the tower. They were originally looking around the tower of confinement, but with the appearance of the High King, they all turned their attention to this side. Those who recognized the High King all bowed to him. No matter what, the High King was the leader of the 18 kings. Those who recognized the High King were all kings. As for the other demons, they did not recognize him. But when they saw the king next to them bow, they all reacted and bowed to him. Zichen looked at these people, but did not see Gudwin. It seemed that he had not arrived yet. The High King nodded to the crowd and waved his hand, indicating that there was no need to be so polite. This is the Tower of Confinement. Let's see what's inside. The High King smiled and walked forward. Wherever he went, the crowd parted. Many people looked at Zichen and the others, as if they were curious about who they were and why they could stand next to the High King. The High King came in front of the tower door and looked at the closed door. He could feel the heavy and powerful aura from within. No one has gone in yet. The High King looked around. Everyone shook their heads. A king said, "It's not open yet. We're all waiting for the High King to take charge." Everyone else nodded. The Honorable King looked around and said, "Is everyone here?" "Reporting to your Majesty, all 17 kings are here. Only King Gudwin has yet to appear. He must be delayed by something." Another king replied. The Honorable King smiled and said, "Then there's no need to wait for him. Open it. Let's go inside and take a look. Let's see what this pagoda of confinement that has always existed but never appeared in the world is." After the High King spoke, 2 other kings stepped forward and walked towards the gate of the confinement pagoda. Their palms landed on the pagoda door respectively, and a tyrannical aura emerged. Zichen sensed this aura. The king was indeed powerful, but he was not invincible. An ancient creaking sound rang out as the door of the pagoda slowly opened. The aura of time surged out from the front, causing everyone's robes to flutter. It was pitch black inside and nothing could be seen. After that dusty aura dissipated, everything returned to normal. Zichen glanced at Lei Jinka, who was looking at the pagoda, his eyes flashing. Based on Lei Jinka's strength and influence, he had not found the opportunity to break through, nor had he found a way to leave. Clearly, it was not that he was not strong enough, but that the secrets of the Saint Spirit realm were almost completely unearthed. There was no such opportunity. Therefore, the appearance of another world gave him hope, and he wanted to come here again. He did not expect that he would actually see hope. For example, the demon realm before him was an unprecedented realm. It even indirectly proved that many of the ancient records of the past really did exist. It was just that they had not been discovered. And this pagoda, and the black hole on top of it, was very likely related to the coordinates of the past and another distant legendary world. Lei Jinka found it difficult to remain calm when hope was right in front of him. Cheng Ho's emotions also changed. Only ancient holy sovereigns like them could truly understand the meaning of hope. Zichen retracted his gaze and continued to look forward. "It looks very peaceful. I wonder what's inside." At that moment, the exalted king's laughter rang out again. He took a few steps forward and looked at the dark entrance. "Let's go. If there really is a path, then it's our fortune." After saying this, the exalted king did not move. The others immediately understood and walked in. Light flashed, and one figure after another disappeared. Those who could stand here were all demons, so those who could enter were all demons. Perhaps in this world there were not much, but in the Saint Spirit realm, these people were all existences that surpassed ancient holy sovereigns. For them to appear in the same world at the same time, the world would not be able to bear it, let alone hide any secrets from them. After the demons entered, the 17 kings all cupped their fists towards the exalted king and entered. It was just that they could not be seen after entering. One of the kings glanced at Zichen before leaving. It was a very obscure glance. Everyone entered one after another, leaving only the exalted king and the others. Even the 20 or so demons that the exalted king had brought with him entered. The exalted king looked back at Lei Jinka. "Mister, shall we go in now?" Zichen was already used to the scene. He did not know what method Lei Jinka had used to make the exalted king be so friendly and courteous to him. Of course, he was not bad to Zichen and Cheng Ho. "Let's go and see if there's anything we need inside." Lei Jinka stretched out his hand and made an inviting gesture. After the exalted king invited him in again, Lejinka entered without hesitation. Next, the exalted king looked at Zichen and Cheng Ho. The two of them did not stand on ceremony and walked in just like that. The exalted king smiled and entered after them. The Tao Protector's eyes were filled with dissatisfaction, but he did not say anything. He only looked at Zichen's back with a cold gaze. After entering the tower, they saw a black area. There was no vegetation, and there was no end in sight. It was not as small as it looked from the outside. This was not much different from what Zichen had expected. This was a space, so it was not strange at all. Vaguely, he could see some figures moving away. They should be the evil demons who had scattered in all directions, trying to find other opportunities. Lejinka stood in front of Zichen and looked into the distance. He did not move. As if sensing Zichen and Cheng Ho's appearance, he asked, "Do you have a direction?" Zichen shook his head. It was their first time here, so how could they have a direction? Cheng Ho said without hesitation, "It doesn't matter if we have a direction or not. We won't be going the same way from now on." "That's fine. I'll go." Lejinka suddenly turned and looked to the right. "This way." Zichen was very surprised. In his field of vision, he saw many people going forward. Under normal circumstances, the direction they appeared in should be in front of them. If they went forward, they would go into the depths. It was usually a place with great opportunities. This was a principle that even Zichen knew, let alone Lejinka, who had lived for countless years. But why did he choose to go to the right? What a coincidence! "We're going to the left this time," Cheng Ho said with a smile. At this time, the exalted king appeared with his people. Seeing that the two of them were going in different directions, he was startled. "Are 3 different directions okay?" "I'll go to the right," said Lejinka. "I'll go to the left," said Cheng Ho. Zichen turned and asked with a smile, "Exalted king, which direction do you want to go?" The exalted king hesitated for a moment. "I'll follow you. I hope the two of you will have a great harvest. If you find a way to leave, don't hide it, okay?" "Don't worry. If I find a way, I'll share it with you." Zichen saluted the exalted king again, then began to walk in the direction Cheng Ho had chosen. After the two of them walked off, Zichen looked at Cheng Ho. Before he could ask, Cheng Ho explained, "That guy is a bit weird, so it's best to stay away from him. Who knows, maybe he didn't go into the depths because he wanted to leave the area for you to explore. Maybe he'll follow you from behind and try to steal your discoveries." Zichen laughed. "You seem to have a lot of prejudice against him, and so do the others. What happened back then? Don't think that he's amazing now. Let me tell you, back in the day, he was just a guy who stood in the back." Cheng Ho snorted. Back in the day, there were a lot of people who could stand by Zichen's side and fight, but he didn't even have a place to stand in the back. But those people all died in battle, and he was the only one alive. That's how he got the title of strongest. Speaking of which, when the tiger is absent, the monkey becomes king. Zichen chuckled. "So you're saying that you're jealous of him? Who told you to stay hidden all these years? If you had come out and developed your own forces, wouldn't you have become ancestors? This has nothing to do with jealousy. A leopard can change its spots, but a leopard cannot. Whatever he was back then, he'll definitely be the same in the future. If you want him to change his personality and lead the spirit race to glory, that's going to be very difficult." Cheng Ho stared at Zichen. "That's why I'm warning you again. Stay away from him. Be careful that he doesn't kill you." Zichen thought for a moment, then said, "But as far as I know, you always decisively gave up on saving me at the most critical moment, even going so far as to use me as a shield. Compared to you, Lejinka has never done anything like that. And when I was in the Holy Thunder Clan, he treated me quite well. He took care of me in many ways. Don't you remember? Did you forget who saved you so many times in life and death situations?" Cheng Ho didn't seem to feel embarrassed at all. "Also, That method of mine was to create a diversion. Think about it, your cultivation base is too low. If I told you to stay behind and run, then the enemy would definitely chase after me, right? You staying behind would be the safest way to escape. You really don't understand my good intentions at all. Zichen chuckled. This guy's skin was as thick as a monk's. Suddenly, Zichen's expression changed slightly. He had made a discovery. P.S. Today's update. Chapter 4730. Zichen, who was moving forward, suddenly stopped. A faint smile appeared on his face because he had discovered something interesting. Interesting. He took a few more steps forward. Chang Ho stood behind him and watched Zichen move forward alone. After about 10 steps, the ground shook and something jumped out from the ground. The first thing that rushed towards Zichen was a pungent hurricane. It was a large python that was black all over. It opened its mouth and bit at Zichen. Zichen's expression did not change as he gently waved his hand. Light shone from his body, condensing into tiny blades that swept forward. Poof! The python's brain was pierced through. Its body fell backward on the ground, and after twitching a few times, it stopped moving. Zichen squatted down. After a while, he took out a golden nidin. Looking at the nidin, Zichen said, I didn't expect a golden nidin to be hidden under its black exterior. Chang Ho walked up and looked at the inner core in Zichen's hand. Is this a power of a higher quality? Maybe not of a higher quality, but there are a lot of them. It's like a solidified golden lake. Zichen stood up and threw the golden inner core to Chang Ho. He smiled and said, Compared to the spider last time, it's still a little lacking. Zichen could kill it so easily. This python that knew how to sneak attack was indeed not strong. He said regretfully, If I had known, I would have let the monk and the rest come with me. As they continued forward, Zichen found more pythons, but they were not very strong. Every time he killed one, he would get one inner core. As they continued forward, some mountains gradually appeared in their vision. Some pythons were coiled on the mountains, flicking their tongues, and could be clearly seen. Some were curled up behind some big rocks, waiting for an opportunity to attack. These inner cores were not very useful to Zichen, but Su Mengyao and the rest could use them. Once they became demons here, they would be greatly benefited when they returned to the Saint Spirit Realm. Therefore, Zichen didn't want to miss out on this opportunity, so he searched this place thoroughly. Chang Ho watched as Zichen jumped up and down like a hard-working monkey. He also knew the uses of these inner cores, but he was not interested in them at all. He could only watch as Zichen collected the spoils by himself. It was obvious that Zichen wouldn't split the spoils equally. He wouldn't get anything. As they continued forward, more and more mountains appeared in front of them. It was almost like a mountain range. Naturally, there were also more pythons. Zichen didn't feel tired at all as he continued to kill the pythons. He only took away their inner cores and left the corpses behind. Zichen didn't notice that as the battle continued along the way, the corpses of the dead pythons would naturally disappear after a period of time. Zichen walked among the mountains. On both sides of him were towering peaks. From time to time, there would be pythons poking their heads out from the peaks. Zichen decisively attacked. Beams of energy, sword light, pierced the pythons' heads. Then, pythons fell from the sky one after another. Beams of light flew out from Zichen's body one after another. They quickly swept past the corpses and returned with the inner cores. Chang Ho, who had been walking behind him, asked, You can still mobilize the power of laws here. Not much, but I can still use it, Zichen said without turning his head. It might have something to do with my breakthrough. After all, as my realm increases, the power of laws I can mobilize will also increase. Suddenly, Zichen's expression changed slightly. In his perception, a rare flat ground appeared in front of him. At the center of the flat ground, there was a very small mountain. It looked like a rockery placed in a wealthy family's garden. Zichen sped up. He ignored the pythons along the way. After arriving at the open area, Zichen sized up this strange mountain. Cheng-Ho followed. After seeing the abnormality in front of them, his expression also changed. This mountain is very strange. Cheng-Ho looked at the mountain and said. Zichen came closer. The mountain was only a little taller than him. There was not a single blade of grass on it. If it was a huge mountain, it would definitely be steep and smooth. Zichen looked around and then walked towards the mountain. The moment he came close, Zichen stretched out his hand as if he wanted to shake the mountain. Whoosh! At that moment, a beam of light appeared in front of Zichen. It was a light shadow. He could not see the face clearly, but he was sure that it was a man. Moreover, it was smiling. Have you thought it through? He looked at Zichen with a smile on his face. Thought about what? Zichen was slightly stunned. He looked at the other party warily. If you've thought it through, then do it. The other party continued. What do you mean I've thought it through? What are you talking about? Zichen asked. If you haven't thought it through, then think about it carefully. Be careful. There are some things that once you choose, there is no room for regret. The other party said again, still smiling. Who are you? What do I need to think about? Zichen asked again, but this time the light shadow did not speak. A force came from the side. It was Cheng-Ho who pushed him. Zichen turned his head. Why are you in a daze? Why didn't you answer when I called you? You called me? Zichen was stunned again. What was going on? However, when he turned his head, the previous light shadow had disappeared. Or it could be said that it was an illusion. What's wrong with you? Cheng-Ho looked at Zichen strangely. Have you been possessed? Zichen shook his head and said, Come and try. See what you find. Zichen took a step back and let Cheng-Ho go up. Cheng-Ho walked forward. Then, under Zichen's gaze, he put his hand on the stone wall of the hill. He looked back at Zichen, and then Zichen's eyes widened. He said in disbelief, You didn't see a light shadow? What light shadow? Cheng-Ho asked in confusion. It's a light shadow that can't be seen clearly. He will smile at you and ask if you are ready. If you are ready, do it. If you are not ready, then do it. You only have one choice. Zichen repeated what the light shadow said before. Cheng-Ho withdrew his hand. Are you possessed? I didn't see anything. Touch yourself and see if you have a fever. Of course. Zichen didn't have a fever, and he didn't need to test. Everything that happened before was very clear. Although the other party's smile and expression couldn't be seen clearly, they were real and definitely not malicious. But now, Cheng-Ho was able to put his hand on it, and there was no abnormality during that time. How could this be explained? I say, sirs, can you stop chatting and focus on saving people? Chapter 4731. This voice was so sudden that both Zichen and Cheng-Ho subconsciously took a step back and put up their guard. My lord, here. The existence that stuck its head out said, Save me, you'll crush me to death like this. The two of them lowered their heads and looked down. They saw a small black snake being crushed under the mountain. The one who spoke was the small snake. Being stared at by the two of them, the small snake spoke again. My lords, don't just look at me. Can you save me first? You count as a person? Cheng-Ho suddenly spoke. If I can't count as a person, then can't I save the snake first? Isn't there a saying that saving a snake's life is better than building a 7-floor pagoda? The small black snake pleaded. My kind lords, please save me. I'm about to be crushed to death. Who are you? Why are you being crushed here? Cheng-Ho asked again. Speaking of this, the small snake's eyes were filled with resentment. It's all because of this damned rock. I don't know what happened, but it suddenly fell from the sky. I just came out of my house to play, and was crushed by it. My lords, please save this snake. This snake has a bitter heart. Okay. Chung Ho smiled and made a gesture to move the small mountain. Zi Qin stood at the side and did not move. He actually wanted to know if Chung Ho could succeed. Chung Ho went forward and tried shaking it a few times. He said helplessly, "Look, I can't save you." "My lord, you didn't use any strength. Can't you use more strength?" The small snake complained. Zi Qin took a few steps back and then squatted down to look at the small snake. Chung Ho was putting on an act again. He was obviously teasing the small snake. The small snake looked at Zi Qin. "My lord, why don't you give it a try? The strength of two people is stronger after all." Zi Qin said, "Try your best to squeeze out. Let me see how much is left." When the little snake heard the sound, it moved out a little. Only a section of its tail was inside. Zi Qin looked up at Chung Ho and asked, "Is that okay?" Chung Ho shook his head. Zi Qin said, "Then that's the only way." A short blade appeared in front of Zi Qin. It was none other than the rule-bending weapon. A hint of fear flashed in the little snake's eyes as he said in a trembling voice, "Sir, what are you doing?" "The rock in your eyes is actually a small mountain. It's extremely heavy and can't be moved at all. I just took a look, and the pressure isn't very large. You just need to cut off some of the tail. Don't worry, you won't die." Zi Qin waved his dagger and smiled. "Now I'm going to help you." "Forget it, forget it." The little snake immediately retracted its head, and its entire body drilled into the bottom of the small mountain. "I think this place is pretty good. Let's wait a little longer. You're the one who said it." Zi Qin put away his dagger and stood up. He turned around and looked in the direction he had come from. In his perception, someone was quickly rushing over. Zi Qin did not recognize the person, but it was obvious that he did not come with good intentions. Zi Qin stood there and looked ahead until the demons in the distance appeared. Zi Qin said indifferently, "There's no need to think about hiding. I've already seen you guys. Just come out." Just as he said this, the little snake poked its head out again and quietly looked outside. When it saw the others appear, its eyes lit up again as if it had seen some hope. "You're a guardian?" One of the demons who walked out said coldly as he looked at Zi Qin. "That's right." Zi Qin nodded. "You killed the other guardians?" The demon asked again. "Sort of." Zi Qin thought for a moment and nodded. "What do you mean?" "What do you mean, sort of?" The demon, who was obviously a Grahan, asked. The 4 demons who walked out with him also did not understand. Zi Qin explained seriously, "Because what you said is not complete. Not only did I kill those guardians, but I also killed a portion of the demons, including the 5 of you." Everyone immediately understood the meaning of Zi Qin's words. Hence, after looking at each other, they decisively charged toward Zi Qin. The aura of the demons surged, bringing with it a strong sense of oppression. Seeing that the 2 sides were about to fight, Chung Ho immediately retreated. The little snake saw this and felt very strange. "Aren't you going to help?" Chung Ho shook his head and said, "No need for now." Just as the 5 demons were moving forward, Zi Qin also rushed forward. When he was still the leader, he could already kill demons, let alone now that he had broken through. The moment they approached, Zi Qin decisively punched out. Accompanied by a strong surge of energy, the 5 demons were sent flying. The huge difference in strength caused their expressions to change drastically, and they felt disbelief. Zi Qin looked at the 5 of them and said, "Don't think about escaping because you won't be able to. And I really need your jade bones to increase my strength." With a flash, Zi Qin arrived in front of a demon and punched. Accompanied by this solid punch, Chung Ho and the little snake in the distance heard the sound of bone shattering. Chung Ho was very clear about the advantages of demons, but he did not expect Zi Qin's fist to be so terrifying. Even with the addition of the laws, This was still ridiculously terrifying. The little snake, who had stuck his head out and did not retract, said in surprise, "This, sir, is actually so powerful." Chang Ho said indifferently, "No matter how powerful he is, he can't compare to you. If he was suppressed here, he would have died long ago." "Sir, don't joke around. I'm just a little snake. How can I compare to such a big shot?" The little snake's eyes stared at the battlefield in front of him. This battle was a battle of numbers, but they were not on the same level. In the beginning, the 5 of them took the initiative to attack, but after that they could only passively defend. They could not even run away. During this time, the sound of bones shattering could be heard. Pooh! After a few consecutive attacks, one of the 5 was finally killed. With the death of the other party, the other 4 panicked and planned to escape. However, Zichen's figure followed them like a shadow, and his speed was much faster than them. In an extremely short distance, he killed the 4 demons. "Sir is mighty!" The little snake shouted excitedly. Chang Ho glanced at the little snake. Zichin blew at the corpses on the ground. As the air flowed past, only the jade bones of the mountain people were left. However, these jade bones were not too sparkling. Zichin guessed that they should have just broken through to the demon realm, but they were more than enough to be used to refine weapons. Zichin put away these jade bones and walked forward. The little snake shouted anxiously, "Sir, if you don't want those bones, you can give them to me. I haven't eaten for a long time. I'm so thin that I'm about to disappear." Zichin said, "Don't be anxious. You'll be able to come out if you're a little thinner." As Zichin spoke, the light of power suddenly circulated around him. Then he forcibly pulled the laws from this space. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.